So no matter what the circumstances may be, no, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the sunshine or through the rain, through the pleasure or through the pain, God is always there for me. So I met this old man. He was so poor, didn't hold a bed, so we slept on the floor. He's always smiling, never heard him complain. He said I've proven God again and again. So no matter what the circumstances may be, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the sunshine or through the rain, through the pleasure or through the pain, God is always there for me. No matter what the circumstances may be, yeah, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the good times or through the bad, through the happy times or through the sad, God is always there for me. The landlord wears the rent, school fee too, partner drop bonds, and the youth them need you. Friends all ask me what I'm gonna do. I smile and tell them that God will see me through. So no matter what the circumstances may be, yeah, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the sunshine or through the rain, through the pleasure or through the pain, God is always there for me. So no matter what the circumstances may be, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the good times or through the bad, through the happy times or through the sad, God is always there for me. I met this old man. He was so poor, he didn't hold a bed, so we slept on the floor. He's always smiling, I never heard him complain. He said I've proven God again and again. So no matter what the circumstances may be, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the sunshine or through the rain, through the pleasure or through the pain, God is always there for me. No matter what the circumstances may be, no, God is always there for me. Yeah. Through the good times or through the bad, through the happy times or through the separate me from your love, my Jesus. Nothing will be able to turn me away from you. I love you, Father. Anyhow, the afflictions of the righteous, the hearts of men getting more and more vicious. Brutality is on the increase. Tell me, when the love of God sees no power on earth to separate me from love, love my Jesus, nothing will be able to turn me away from you. I love you, Father. This level of crime, only love can eradicate. We must demand justice from.
Good afternoon to all my listeners and viewers. Welcome to Rebel Radio. Monday, yes, first working day for us. And as usual, we have your plate chock full of nutritious information. Yes. Let us, as you know, we are preoccupied with post-hurricane restoration. Yes, and Westmoreland, one of the parishes that was badly hit. Let us go over to Westmoreland now and to have a talk with the Custos there, Custos Perrin. Yes, good afternoon, Custos. How are you today?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I'm feeling quite fine. It's a lovely afternoon. Slightly overcast, but cool and comfortable.
Okay, that's very good news. Let me just, have you been having rains in Westmoreland in recent weeks?
I would say yes, I would say no. Last night, for example, we had a shower. It didn't last very long, but prior to that, we never had any rain.
Yeah.
It has been intermittent. Nothing to talk about, but many persons do not mind because there are still people without proper roofing.
Yes.
And when it rains, people get very nervous because they realize that they're in trouble.
Yes, of course.
So the fact that it is not raining copiously at the moment or during this time is not necessarily a bad thing for us.
Absolutely.
We are getting intermittent. This is good, which is good enough to keep the grass green.
Yes.
But nothing that would cause any undue hardship on those who are still either under tarpaulin or otherwise inadequately covered.
Okay. And how is the restoration process going, Custos, from what you have seen?
It's going, but too slowly for my own comfort. Individuals have been responding favorably. They have been putting on roofing, they have been decking, taking their own initiative. But in terms of other interventions, that have been slow in coming. Persons are still optimistic nonetheless that something will happen. There are still many roofs uncovered and many persons who are beginning to get hopeless and despondent because things are not going the way that they would have hoped by now.
Yes.
Considering that we are over 3 months, would have expected just a little bit more.
Yes, sir. Yes. I can well imagine so many people out there are still homeless.
And the roofing, yes, and the roofing, as I said, and the structures, persons still want building material. And I don't know. I really don't know how we're going to respond because if we don't have the resources to give everybody who needs a house.
Yes.
So I'm not so sure what is going to happen.
Yes.
But apart from that, there is an urgent need for infrastructural repairs. The roads are bad, extremely bad.
Yes.
In the town of Sablamar, the roads are bad, sidewalks are terrible. They like to use the word deplorable, it's a good word. I have had reason to call him here. He has been getting a lot of punches for the condition of the town of Sablamar.
Yes.
I don't know if the punches ought to be directed to him. So I said to him, if they are not directed to you, then put up your defense. Don't allow the person to come aggressively at you, and you say nothing, and you do nothing, or that everything is squarely on your shoulders, which it may be, it may not be. I really don't know. But the town, the sidewalk, general infrastructure, if you think about the market, the market is still without roof.
Whoa.
And the police rightly are trying to get persons from off the street, the vendors from off, because they literally block the street on a market day, Fridays and Saturdays. So they are trying to get them off the street. But at the same time, the market is without roof and without structure and without form. So while you're getting them, you're wondering where are they to go, because there's nowhere for them to go.
Yes.
So I've seen that they are moving into an area there which is really where the fort was, an area that would normally be for parking. So they are going into that area to set up their stalls because market has to go on. So we have a lot of challenges. If we think about the courthouses, both the family court and the parish court, both buildings are still without roof, just as they were after the hurricane. So courts have had to be held in one court alone, which is at Withorn. So the car is not yet recovered from Melissa. Not to mention the churches, that's another story. But it may seem to me, because I have to live on the ground, to be a long time, but perhaps in the mind of some others it's not really a long time, because we really got a bad hit. If we are to talk about the positive, we say that electricity has been restored to a number of persons in the parish.
Okay.
There are still a number of persons, yes, there are still a number of persons in the extremities, if you like, who have not yet, and perhaps will not get until another couple of months. But the main areas are powered, and that's a good thing. Yesterday I heard of ice cream vendor going around selling ice cream to children, and I said, a little bit of normalcy is returning, because that never used to be, because you didn't have refrigeration to keep your ice cream, so vendors couldn't go out selling ice cream.
Okay.
So if you look at those pointers, you can say that things are going in the right direction, but not as
What about water?
Water is still an issue. You have persons, the past, even where I live, with containers going to a low pipe. You understand what I mean? One of those standpipes that are very low, not high. You have to bend down very low to get the water, because I'm not too sure. I need to investigate to find out, because it was at the major pumping station and water supplying base is at a place called Rowan River.
Yes.
And they're not getting water because Rowan River had no electricity to manage the pumps. But I'm happy to say that electricity has been restored to the Rowan River area, but water is still pretty much gravity fed. And therefore it cannot reach the areas of higher elevation. And the areas that it happens to reach, the pressure is very, very limited. So persons have to bend real low only at certain points to get water. So you see people pushing wheelbarrows with water containers, trying to find a pipe that may be able to offer them some water.
Yes.
And because the rain is not coming as much anymore, some of the areas that they would go to wash, those areas are now dry. So we're still in a situation where persons are not where they ought to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, I can really imagine it is difficult. And,
very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Yes, and
but.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And as one of the issues, I know that a lot of people down in Westmoreland there, lost their jobs because hotels that they were working with closed.
Yes.
And many others who were self-employed have lost their source of income. So that too,
Absolutely.
that too is another issue.
Yes, and fortunately for us, nature, though it's nature that brought the hurricane, nature is still kind. So crops are returning. So you're still able to see pumpkin and caraloo and cabbage and those cash crops.
Yes.
They are returning. And persons who normally would rear chicken as a means of livelihood, some of them are getting back into that, but some are not able because their coops got blown down and destroyed. And even to build a fall coop is not an easy operation. It requires large amounts of money. To build a nice house will require maybe 100,000, depending on the size of it, and so on. So farmers can't at this time put on the roof and build a fall coop at the same time.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Some are trying, and some have been successful. But the stronger ones survive. The weaker ones are still falling by the wayside.
Wow. Costas, another issue in Westmoreland there is that the whole question of landlessness.
Oh, yes.
Do you know have you seen any sign where government plans to address that issue, sir?
I'm not aware, and that has always been a very sore point, and a point that I've made repeatedly, that the reason why Westmoreland becomes the laugh of the country, because if you were to come on a Sunday afternoon, you're likely to see, well before Melissa, you're likely to see a house being dragged on a cart, moving from one location to another. And it's a wooden house because you don't really own land, so you may find a piece of land that you rented, and the tenant says, no, you don't want you there anymore, and you have to move your house to somewhere else where somebody rent you a house spot. Vast majority of the poorer persons live on the fringes because they are not the holders of land. Has to be some serious study to find lands that can be made available to persons, not necessarily for free, but they can be at a price affordable so that they can have something. I think the government is aware, but issues, there are so many things that have to be dealt with that it probably will take some time. But the matter of land in Westmoreland, ownership of land, availability of land to a vast number of people, that is an issue that requires serious attention.
Yes, sir.
More aggressive.
Yes.
And if we talk about land, and we're talking about all the things that we do talk about, we also talk about the education. Because as you may aware, the schools have had a great hit. The classrooms in all the schools. I don't know if there's a school that has not been affected. And many tents have been made available as substitute classrooms, which the teachers are trying their best to situation. But in terms of restoration of classrooms to schools, and in some instances, it's a complete rebuild that is necessary. It's not merely a matter of roof. There are some schools that the walls have just gone, and it requires a complete rebuild. So it's a lot of work. I think that initially persons thought it was just a walkthrough. But I think it's hitting reality now. When we hear, for example, government is talking about the budget and what the implications of Melissa on the budget, I think it is becoming home to everybody that Melissa has had a significant impact on the economy of the whole Jamaica, not just the few western parishes, but the whole Jamaica.
Yes, of course, that's true. It was a destructive force, and
Without question. Yes.
and we know that the road to recovery is going to be a long one. We know it is not a quick fix. Not a quick fix at all.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. You know, and I think too that, as I say to friends, for example, the educational system where some schools take limited number of students for limited number of hours. But these students will have to compete with students who have whole day in the long run.
Yes.
What's going to happen to students? They are at total disadvantage.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Some parents have had the good fortune of sending their students out of the parish to other places for school, but they are in the minority. But the majority of parents can't afford to send the students out. And you know that parents, when they are told to bring a child to school for 2 days in a week, they put themselves with a week of time, and they end up not sending them at all.
Yes.
You know, and these are the students who are going to become the men and women of tomorrow. What is going to happen?
Yes. Hold it there for me. Costas, let me try and get. Yeah, just hold it there. Let me try and get. Let me try and get Mr. Rowlands online. Yes. Let me try and get him. Dexter Rowlands. Yes. Try and get Councillor Dexter Rowlands out. Yes, you are still there with me, Mr. Costas, you are still there, right?
Yes. Still here holding on, still with you.
Yes. Okay.
Patiently with you.
Yes. I was trying to get hold of councillor out in Portland there, but I don't know, I'm not getting through. Let me try one more time. Yes, let me try one more time for him. Yes. Yes, let me try again. Yeah, while we wait to see if we get him.
Yes.
As what you can see as we speak, the situation out there in Westmoreland is that it is still a trying time for many people. Some people are helping themselves, but the vast majority are still waiting for some assistance.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But as I said, you know, the Jamaican proverb say, while the grass is growing, the horse is starving.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
So there are so many facets to this whole aftermath of hurricane. I mean, the churches are down. The church is the place that forms part of the moral fabric of the society that teaches values and attitudes and so on. And if those are out of the effects of the hurricane, we are persons going to be taught these things.
yes.
Some churches, for example, have been on the tent, some are in homes, but they are also affected, much reduced, because the buildings are, in some instances, completely down,
Yes.
and in other instances, roofless. And there's no immediate hope of their restoration.
Yes. Yes, sir. That is not.
It's going to be a long journey.
Yes.
A long, painful journey. And we can only pray that since our friends in the north are changing policies that may have negative impact on our weather conditions, we can only hope and pray, my brother, that this year, 2026, we don't see anything near Melissa or Beryl turning in our side, because that would be disastrous, to say the least.
Yes, of course. Yes, we sincerely hope that we will, the hurricane will pass us this year and don't land. No.
Yes.
Nowhere near us at all.
Not even a good wind we are able to take at the moment.
Yes. So as it relates to in the town of South, electricity has been fully restored in South.
Yes, primarily so. Still dark because many of the street lights are not yet up. The street lamps many of them are not up. So in the night, the place is not well lit.
Yes.
Except, there's light in the homes and in the businesses. So you don't hear the generators going as was the case prior to now, which is so good because persons had a hard time meeting the expenses associated with the of generators. Large amount of monies to buy fuel, whether gasoline or diesel.
Yes.
So that has eased the pressure somewhat. Okay. So as I said, things are turning with electricity. A lot of things positive will come out of it, but we still have a long journey ahead of us.
Okay. Well, Costas, we just have to do whatever we can to assist those in need. We know that the road ahead is long and difficult. So I want to thank you very much for your time, sir, and that at Rebel Radio we always want to talk to you to find out what is happening. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yes, that was Costas Hartley Perrin there of Westmoreland, keeping us informed about what is happening in Westmoreland. And as we have said on this program, that the road to recovery is going to be a long and difficult one. We know it is, right? It's not going to be easy at all. And we know lots of people out there are still having difficulties, but it is not going to be an easy road. And we are yet to hear from the government what is going to be done to address the land issue. We know that is pronounced in Westmoreland, right? And one of the things that we are hoping for, we are going to try and get Minister Montague for him to tell us what the plans are. Yes. So we are working towards doing that so that we can have a clearer idea of what the government is doing to make land accessible to the landless. This is Rebel Radio. Let us take a break.
It's the Everybody Sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagley Park Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, Hardware and Supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring and more. At Tools, Hardware and Supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hardware. God in the day, it's still God in the night. Life is easy when you're on top of the mountain. You've got peace of mind like you never know. Yeah, but things change when you're down in the valley. Don't lose faith, or you're never alone. For the God on the mountain is still God in the valley. When things goes wrong, He'll make them right. And God of the good time.
Yes, welcome back to Rebel Radio. And as we continue to find out what is happening to the restoration process, and I have with me Mr. William Matthias, and from Modular Jamaica Limited. You know, he is one of those who are involved, yes, in trying to address the shelter issue. Mr. Matthias, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Sir Desmond. How are you doing today?
Well, I am supposed to be doing okay. The last time we spoke, you had indicated about this model house that withstood the hurricane, and
that's correct.
You indicated that is one of the models that you were trying to get on the market, right? Update us on what has happened so far.
Okay. So first thing is that thank you for having me on your program.
Yes.
And I know that we all have the same mindset in that we're trying to do the best that we can to bring shelter to those who have lost their homes. So we have, let's take it from a factory standpoint. We have a factory to be in and installed and ready to go by the end of March to the first week in April. And our factory will be able to generate about 1,200 homes a month in terms of production.
Yes. What size?
So-
what size houses those? 2 bedrooms?
It can be 2 bedrooms. That's anywhere between 400 square feet to 700 square feet.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I think those are the kind of square feet that people really need and want.
Yes.
And we can do one. We can do a food for the poor type one that is probably about 320 square feet as well. So if that's needed, that.
Just pause a moment. Welcome, Mr. Rowlands. You are there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. Right. I have with me Mr. William Matthias, and we are talking about housing. So just hold on there for me. Yes, Mr. Matthias, continue.
Yes. So it ranges from 320 square feet up to 100 square feet. That's the four, we call them affordable homes, right? That's what people can really afford in these times. As you would know, that most of the relief effort has now changed momentum in the world. We're now recovering. And in that recovery effort, most of the NGOs that are on the ground are now either trying to rebuild roofs or they're going to build or put up homes. If you don't have the land or access to the land, or access to building on the land, and that presents a problem. And that always is the problem, because when you talk about affordable homes, a lot of people don't necessarily have a title for that land. And unless you have a title for the land, it kind of prohibits you, anybody from building on it.
Right.
Or you have to have a long term that you can show that the ability. I think at the moment, these are the nuances that we're having to face, in that the lands are not necessarily easily to be identified as title for land. And I think that is where the red tape being held up in terms of the ability to push forth and bring homes to people who are in need.
Yes. Yes.
So once we can identify from modular Jamaica standpoint, we are also, as you know from our last conversation, trying to partner with the government, NHT, because we would like no more than for them to come with the land and have land, build a home for us, and open up a very speedy solution. Can go down the road of putting up homes at a much quicker pace than your traditional type of concrete and block types homes.
Okay. Yes. Well, we are going to hope that, as I indicated earlier, and we are going to have a discussion with Minister Montague to find out what is the government's position on making land accessible. So, we are hopefully we'll have some information on that. Let us hop over to Portland to find out what is happening. Mr. Rowlands, what is happening over in your division? Yes. Not hearing you at all.
Not a rural sanitary condition. We cannot compare with the structure that happened. And I'm telling them, so not block, and not one lot of totally. Damage, badly. And personally, speaking in friendly, because they can't go back to the room yet. And they were coming from assistance. You're
on speakerphone? Are you on a speakerphone? Mr. Roland, are you on a speakerphone?
Yes.
No, take us off. Come off the speakerphone. Come take us off the speakerphone. It is having
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the feedback is.
Yes.
Yes, some people who have been badly damaged. Some have lost one person. Lost his home church foot into the Grande River. Homes. But I'm not speaking in the house yet. Because their roof was this, although they have been investigated and promises have been made. And some roads, because of the heavy.
You are breaking up.
Rains in 14 months. Absolutely. Hardly my division that people have to leave them. That is why it's snowing.
You are breaking up, Mr. Rolands. You're not coming through.
No, it cannot be true.
You're not coming through at all.
Or maybe it's where I'm in Kingston, so maybe it's where I am.
Yeah, I don't know why you are breaking up. Yeah.
Maybe it's here.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah. Well, let me try something else. Mr. Macias.
Yes, sir.
All right, both of you, Mr. Rolands.
Yes, speaking.
All right, hang up. I'm going to call both of you straight. Mr. Macias, hang up. I'm going to call both of you straight, right? Yes. Yes. So let me try and get these people on the straight line. Yes, because talking to them on WhatsApp, not working out at all. Not hearing Mr. Rolands at all. So let me try calling him straight and see if it will be better. Yes, let me see if it will be better. Yes, see if. Mr. Rolands? All right, hold it there now for me. Let me see. Just hold it, please. Yes. Let me try now with see if it is better to call him straight. Yes. Let us.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, all right. Hold it there for me now, please. Hold it there. Hold it there. Yes, hold it there. Okay. Both, all right. So, Mr. Rolands, you were making a point. You want to continue? Mr. Rolands?
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, go ahead now.
What I was saying, although we cannot compare as far as damage is concerned with Westmoreland and St. Louis and other parishes.
Yes.
There are still other damages happened to people in Portland. For instance, one person has lost their home totally. And there have been many homes have been badly damaged, and they are living in very uncomfortable living condition. They have been promised some assistance, but up to now, there's no release has been made.
Yes.
So, and then the roads, not only from the hurricane, but the rain in Portland over the last few months have damaged a lot of roads, making some of them impassable at this moment.
Wow.
Like for instance, the Curry Road in Snoil, and then the Johnny Hill Road, the main road to the biggest housing scheme in Portland, Narratives.
Yes.
You cannot drive on that road anymore.
Wow. But some repairs were carried out on that road last year, don't it?
Which one?
The road to the Norwich Heights housing scheme. Don't some repairs were?
Oh, no, that is in the scheme itself.
Oh, okay.
That is the main road. Part of, not all the main road, part of the main road in the scheme was repaired.
Yes. Okay.
Not the other adjoining road.
Yes.
So, so sometimes, whatever you're using is a alternative route where there's a river, so they have to be going through the river. So when the river is coming down with force, small vehicles cannot traverse through it.
Yes.
So they're going through a very difficult time now. And there are many other roads that have suffered bad damage, in Naylor's Hill Road, Bournemouth Road, and need repairs, and it's because of the heavy rains and the hurricane. So, just have to wait and see what people have uncomfortable at the time.
Wow. That's not very good news at all.
No, not very good news.
No.
And then, even the higglers, the market, still not being used, still not repaired. So they have to be on the street, and people are really struggling.
Wow, not good at all. Not good news at all. And the parish council. What about water? You don't have any water issues. In other words, people are getting water, have access to water.
Well, there are issues outside my division. So there have been constant issues, like people are not getting as regular as before. There's two places that it's just about a month when they start to get water regularly. You have places like Richmond Hill, Naylor's Hill, Thomastown Lane, Cottage Lane, that their water is just a problem. Sometimes we get it and then a month or 6 weeks, they don't get it.
Wow.
So what needs to happen is that they need to continue the previous improvement that has started some years ago. And then what is happening is this constant leak in everything. The workers are willing, but the government are not supplying the material that is needed to fill the pipe. So the pipe will get repaired today and tomorrow they're gone again because the material is not in. They need new material, new pipe that have been there for many, many years. So that's one of the things that is hitting. New farmers can't get any. So, so it's a difficulty all over.
Okay.
So, luckily, there's a pipe in that place that they call First and Last at the entrance to the town. A standpipe, so because of that, people are there 24 hours a day, putting their pans and things like that. And sometimes it's causes to some of the folks because they have to be high and taxi to take this water, and everybody can afford it.
Yes.
So it's really a big struggle. as far as water situation is concerned.
Well, boy, I know it is a long journey back to the road, a long journey to recovery, very long and tough. I know that.
Very long. People are going to handle a lot of problems.
Yes.
And, so we have to be looking at the way how we can help the people get back on the foot. For instance, even places that are in the west that got damaged, where we always get some higglers always get stuff from to sell. I'm not going to see serious problems now. So I think the Ministry of Labour and Social Security need to come in with some assistance to those people who are undergoing serious economic problems.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And there are ways that it can be helped.
Yes. Yeah. So, back to Mr. Matthias. Mr. Matthias, as you say, that your company has the capacity to do 1,200 houses per month, and what you are waiting on now is the access to land is one of the issues that has to be dealt with, right? But you could give us an idea about cost? You didn't say anything about cost. Mr. Matthias? Hello, Mr. Matthias? Hello? Because if he has, I don't know, because if he has left us, yes. Oh, Mr. Roland's, Mr. Matthias has left us, so, yes. So, and what is the parish council doing?
Well, all right, I will give you an example. They are under pressure with funds, and they are not getting no extra support from the Ministry of Local Government. For instance, there is an alternative route to the town that in the past the main road has been blocked with water coming over, and it's only high-end vehicles can go through those waters, like trucks and things like that. Now, we have to use that alternative route, but that route now becomes about 90% impassable. So, ambulance, if they have to use that route to go to the hospital, couldn't travel on that route, and that is a dire emergency. And the parish council itself would love to assist, but they are short of funds badly. And,
so is that a parochial road or it is a main road?
It's a parochial road, but it's the alternative route to the main road on West Palm Avenue. So if, as I said before, the main road has been blocked sometime, and it's that road people have to use. So even now, if sometimes the traffic is so bad that you have a long hold up, so people would normally just use that route if they're going to the hospital or going to other parts of the town. But it's become impossible now, so people have to just stay and wait. So that is a route, and I've appealed publicly for that road to be repaired. It should have been repaired from last year. Shouldn't have been waited so long. And maybe one of the days they're going to, when you really need it, you can't use it. And then it's that time you're going to see money coming from the minister to get it repaired. And it shouldn't be like that. You should look on what the possibility of things happening and not wait until things happen. So I'm just hoping and praying that nothing happens for us to badly that road. Because that could cost lots of lives and things like that.
Wow.
If there's emergency and fire brigade have to hope they know they cannot shut down that road.
Wow.
I've been happy that I can, I think, so far.
And you said the council is strapped for funds, and they are not getting any assistance from the Ministry of Local Government.
Right, no special assistance. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the other parishes, but the assistance that we needed, for instance, that alternative route is not only about 10 to 12 million could get that road repaired. So that is not that could easily be found. In fact, if they could write a letter to the council and telling them that they will get that money, the council will easily get contractors to do the work until that money is in place. But if they don't get the go-ahead, they can't do it.
Okay.
So it's a terrible situation. Telling it terrible. I just pray that nothing happens.
Yes, sir. Yes. And as you pointed out a while ago, that the market is still there. No work has been done on it.
Not even. And I tell you, if you look at the market, and they can't find the money to build it totally, just spend a few million there, not much, replacing some of the things, and things like that, and the market could be used. So because of that, people be on the road selling, very uncomfortable for people who have to walk on the pavements and things like that. And when rain is falling, it's just a terrible situation. And as I said before, if they don't have the money to do the market full, some repairs to the top of it, and people could be in there.
Yes. But nothing has been done to that.
Nothing at all has been done. I just cannot understand it.
Yes, sir. Well, we have to hope that action will be taken soon to address those issues, so that life can be better for the people of Portland.
Definitely.
Yes.
The member of Parliament is trying to see what can happen.
Yes.
But we'll see what will happen.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Rowlands, for your time.
Yes, and I'm going to get in touch with you personally after.
Okay, I will call you. I will call you as soon as I will call you at 3:00. So don't go far. Okay. Yes. So that was Mr. Dexter Rowlands there, the councillor from the Portland Division, and before him we were talking to Mr. Macias from that housing project. Yes. And well, as you heard, that one of the issue in Westmoreland, especially in Westmoreland, is that situation with access to land. Yes, Modular Jamaica Limited. Yes, that is the company that is standing by to, construct houses. Yes. One of the things, as I said, I didn't get from Mr. Macias was the cost. We have to try and get him back so that we can, have an idea about what it will cost for people to access one of those units. All right. Coming up next, it's Caribbean business. And that is where we take a look at what is happening in the business community around the Caribbean. So let us go for a break. This is Rebel Radio.
the Everybody Sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagleyburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, hardware, and supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring, and more. At Tools, hardware, and supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hardware.
Out a comment during
Live
the
from
Frankly
London, this
Speaking
is
show.
Bloomberg Daybreak
On your
Europe.
computer,
I'm Lizzie
look to the
Burnham
right of the
with
video. That's your live chat hub. Click the Say Something box at the bottom, type your message, and hit enter. Boom, you're live. On the mobile app, it's just as easy. Tap the live chat button right under the video to open the window. Pro tip, if you're in full screen mode, tap the screen once and hit the chat icon to see messages without leaving.
Welcome to Caribbean Business Review, where insight meets impact. We bring you economic and financial updates, sharp statistical breakdowns, and data-driven insights on the forces shaping the region. Smart analysis, bold ideas, real Caribbean intelligence. This is CBR.
Welcome to episode 6 of season 3 of the Caribbean Business Review. I'm Joseph Cox. Now, first of all, let me thank you so very much for your continued support across all our social media channels and MKR Radio. Now, this week, our special guest is Dr. the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, who is Minister of Science, Technology, and Special Projects in Jamaica. We engage in a frank discussion on power, privacy, and cybercrime, examining Jamaica's cybersecurity landscape and the Cybercrimes Amendment Act of 2026. Also in today's CBR briefing, we examine digital taxation and a small market risk in light of the recent announcement to apply general consumption tax to digital services and intangibles supplied from overseas but consumed in Jamaica. But before we begin today's briefing, there's an issue that we are obliged to bring to your attention. Now, across the Caribbean, electoral dominance is becoming the new norm. In Barbados, Mia Mottley has secured an unprecedented third consecutive clean sweep. Grenada delivered two 15-0 outcomes under Keith Mitchell, and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the opposition, now led by former Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, holds a single seat. These are not episodic events. They reflect a regional electorate consolidating power behind leaders perceived as capable of navigating debt restructuring, climate shocks, and an increasingly conditional global order. But supermajorities do more than accelerate decision-makings. They reshape fiscal governance. In small states, managing high debt ratios, IMF programs, and CBI-dependent revenue models, concentrated mandates can either enable discipline reform or weaken internal accountability at precisely the moment external scrutiny is tightening. Citizenship by investment programs, financial transparency regimes, correspondent banking risks, and climate finance negotiations now sit under intense global oversight. Strong mandates may strengthen negotiating leverage abroad, yet without institutional counterweights, the same consolidation can reduce parliamentary challenge over fiscal risks, contingent liabilities, and the pricing of national assets. The deeper shift is this. Caribbean democracies are moving towards executive-heavy models in pursuit of stability. The growth dividend will depend not on electoral dominance itself, but on whether that dominance translates into productivity reform, value retention, and institutional resilience, rather than comfort within power. Now, with that context established, let's turn to the stories we're tracking this hour in today's Market Watch and Global Pulse. Coming up in the Market Watch, Jamaica's $1.4 trillion fiscal budget, TNT banks further cut U.S. dollar card limits, and Antigua cleans up offshore sector. Then in our Global Pulse, U.S. inflation eases to 2.4% in January, UK growth stalls at 0.1%, and China's digital services export surge. All that and more this hour on Market Watch and Global Pulse. Coming up next, it's a CBR briefing. This is a CBR briefing. I'm Joseph Cox. Jamaica's recent decision to apply 15% GCT to digital services supplied from abroad is economically rational. It aligns with global VAT practice. It also corrects asymmetry between domestic and foreign providers. It modernizes the tax base. Implementation is scheduled for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 26-27, but that timing matters. There is a risk, however, that few are discussing, and it's not about consumer price increases, it's access. Digital taxation works differently in large markets than in small ones. In the United States or the European Union, platforms comply because the market size justifies the administrative burden. But Jamaica is a small market, and so are most Caribbean economies. For global giants, Netflix, Microsoft, Google, compliance is manageable. But for mid-tier platforms, specialized SAS providers, certification portals, AI tools, developer software, niche education services, Jamaica may represent a very small revenue share. If the cost of registering with Tax Administration Jamaica, filing returns, adjusting billing systems, managing ongoing compliance exceeds expected market revenue, the rational decision may not be compliance. It may be geo-blocking. Geo-blocking is silent. A platform updates its compliance filters and users in Jamaica see this service is not available in your region. Now imagine that effect not on streaming services but on SME cloud software, international e-learning portals, certification testing platforms, developer tools, design software, startup infrastructure services. Suddenly, the issue is not revenue, it is digital competitiveness. Digital services are no longer luxuries, they are operating infrastructure. But let's be clear, the largest platforms are unlikely to exit. The risk lies in the middle tier, the tools SMEs rely on, but which generate a limited revenue per small market. However, if even a small subset of providers exit from the Caribbean markets, due to compliance friction, the cost of doing business rises, not because of the tax rate itself, but because of reduced platform availability. And this has second-order effects. Less digital innovation, reduced startup formation, increased reliance on informal VPN workarounds, and greater regional fragmentation. This is where the implementation window becomes important. Quarter 4 of fiscal 26-27 provides time for administrative simplification, clear non-resident supply guidance, payment processor integration, reasonable registration thresholds, and ideally regional harmonization. Because the regional dimension matters. If Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and the OECS each implement digital VAT with different systems and compliance requirements, the friction multiplies. But if the region aligns its administrative architecture, compliance becomes scalable. Indeed, a simplified non-resident registration portal with minimal filing burden could significantly reduce exit risk. Small markets acting separately increase exit risk. Small markets coordinating reduce it. This is not an argument against digital taxation. It's an argument for smart sequencing. Revenue modernization must not inadvertently narrow digital access, because in 2026, digital access is economic access. Stability requires revenue, but resilience requires connectivity. And small markets must design digital taxation with both in mind. Now that's your CBR briefing. This is a market brief. We begin in Jamaica, where a $1.4 trillion budget has been tabled, targeting $45 billion in new revenues. Visitor arrivals slumped over 60% in November and December, but net international reserves rose to $6.7 billion. In Trinidad, GDP grew at an estimated 0.8% in 2025, with debt at 67.8% of GDP and a fiscal deficit of 5.5%. Crude exports average around 50,000 barrels per day, even as domestic production declines. Meanwhile, banks continue to reduce the US dollar card limits amid forex constraints. In Guyana, private sector credit has surged from $259 billion in 2020 to $532 billion in 2025, while January visitor arrivals climbed 17.2% year-on-year. In the Bahamas, the government is targeting a 78% domestic financing mix under its medium-term debt strategy. The IMF warns unfunded public pension liabilities exceed 15% of GDP, while private sector credit stands at 39% of GDP, down 27 percentage points from its 2009 peak. Across the ECCU, growth is near 3%, but several members risk missing the 60% debt to GDP regional target by 2035. And that's your market brief on the Caribbean Business Review. For more, look for us on YouTube and Spotify.
In a world of constant change, insight is your greatest asset. At Joseph Cox & Associates, we empower innovation across the Caribbean. Whatever your challenge, we can help. We're proudly customer-centric, offering bespoke solutions tailored to every partner. From innovation and digital transformation to leadership and policy, our services are designed to deliver lasting impact. We partner with leaders across sectors, from finance and government to energy, tech, and infrastructure, helping them navigate complexity with confidence. Our work is grounded in collaboration. We connect regional leaders through powerful networks, driving change through joint research. Discover more at josephcox.org. Joseph Cox & Associates. Insight, experience, impact.
Ahead on Caribbean Business Review, our conversation with Dr. the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, Minister of Science, Technology and Special Projects in Jamaica, where we examine the cybercrime landscape and Jamaica's legislative response.
For me, success is having our citizens embrace technology, utilizing technology for good, and unleashing their innovative capacity, and also that the legislation provides the level of protection as relates to this type of, let's say, cybercrime, that we provide the protection that will encourage our citizens to feel confident that they can, operate in this space.
Okay, welcome back to the Caribbean Business Review. My name is Joseph Cox, and now we go into our strategy deep dive. And our special guest this week is the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, who is the Minister of Science, Technology and Special Projects in Jamaica. And he has been the man who has been piloting the recent Jamaica Cybercrimes Amendment Act of 2026 through the Parliament. And I want to have this conversation with him so we can understand where we're going, where we really benefiting from this, where we might be falling short, etc., etc. But just to set some context, would interest you all to recognize that in Jamaica, as at 2022, 85% of the population was using the internet, with roughly 20% using the internet for digital transactions, like online shopping, etc., etc. But even more importantly, one of the things that we recognize is that what they call the attack surface, where basically how should I put this? The dependency on the digital systems and its vulnerability to extraction, monetary extraction or other extraction, that of course has increased substantially. But most importantly now, for the first half of 2025, Jamaica had 34.4 million cyber attacks. That's amazing by any standard. But the global data would show that for the public sector, the average cost to the public sector globally per attack is roughly $4.5 million US. So in other words, this is a very, very serious thing when we're looking at cyber crimes and so on, and where we stand up as a country, where we stand up as a region. And therefore, Minister Wheatley, welcome to the program.
Good to be here, Joseph.
Yes, great seeing you. Minister, guide me with something. You have just piloted this legislation through at least the House of Parliament. It has passed the lower house without amendment. But the question, I suppose, that is really important here is, how does this stack up against international standards? I've heard it described in some corners as competent but incomplete. But how do you assess it vis-a-vis our global benchmarks? Not regional benchmarks, no, global benchmarks.
Well, Joseph, we can safely say that we are ahead or above regional benchmark. Our cyber legislation, cybercrime legislation, is on par with those in most developed countries, especially in Europe. In fact, most of our legislation as relates to digital space, cyber crimes, data privacy. We ensure that it is in line with international standard. In fact, the UN Cybercrime Convention, which was signed last year, October 2025, were very instrumental in developing that piece of document. And so far, some 80 countries have signed to it. And Jamaica is a signatory to that convention. So clearly, we are in pace or on par with what is internationally accepted. And even these amendments that we have now incorporated into this new bill speaks to us being very much cognizant of the rapid change in the landscape, in the digital landscape. And so we have to ensure that our legislation provides our citizens specifically with the level of protection that allows them to want to use, to operate in the digital space. In fact, most of our interactions, whether it is for work or pleasure, involves some form of digital interaction. And so we have to ensure that we provide our citizens with the necessary guarantees. And I must say that we do not expect that it is going to be a complete fix. The whole digital landscape is one that is very dynamic. And so the legislation will be amended continuously. We don't anticipate that we're going to wait another 5 or 6 years to do, or 3 years to do any amendments. So we gave the assurance to the public and the Parliament that as needs arise, we will do the necessary changes to ensure that the ecosystem is such that it provides protection for our citizens here in Jamaica.
Well, all right. But all right, I hear you on that, Minister. But let me delve a little bit more deeply into it, because I suppose there's a general sense when reading through the legislation, both the original legislation and the amendments, one gets a distinct impression that you're relying on the various fraud statutes, criminal statutes, existing criminal statutes to treat with the challenges that emanate from this space. Now, what the literature also says is that this is not exactly in keeping with current international standards, where people seek to codify the specific offense, use aggravative sanctions, etc., just for, frankly speaking, for judicial clarity and so on. But we are not going that route. We are relying on the original, what we call the original criminal statutes. Is that necessary and sufficient in 2026?
Okay, so the truth is that the Cyber Crimes Act is not a standalone act, because we have quite a bit of legislation that addresses other areas within the digital space. For example, what we call the Lotto Scam Act is again operating in the whole cybercrime space. And also that's a separate piece of legislation. For example, in this legislation, we make reference to persons owning a premises and then allowing persons to use that to commit a crime under the Cyber Crimes Act. Again, that draws from the Lotto Scam Act, which has been very successful in terms of, prosecuting persons who would have allowed person to use their property or their premises to commit this type of act. So this Cyber Crime Act, the amendments therein, is not a standalone, to be quite honest. It draws on different legislation to give it its support in its current form. And persons may ask, why not just have one piece of legislation that covers everything? But again, the space that we're operating is very dynamic, and the Parliament saw it fit at this time to amend the original Cyber Crimes Act to cover and also give clarity to a number of definitions, like, for example, broadening the whole concept to publishing in whatever form, and also deal with matters relating to consent and the age of consent. For example, we were very specific to indicate that a person under the age of 18 could never give consent or could not give consent for publication of intimate images and so forth. So
I would never argue with that. So we're the intimate images, that aspect of it. Everybody is at least as far as what I have seen, everybody believes that Jamaica has hit the nail on the head where that is concerned. That is not a question for me personally. But the issue, what I want to raise with you, and I want to get specific, is that nowadays we have a whole new set of drama to deal with in this space. Phishing, skimming, credential harvesting, the whole gamut of things. And honestly, Minister, I'm wondering if we're doing ourselves a bit of a disservice by not actually identifying those to treat with that in a very frontal way. Because you see, here's the truth of it. And I suppose I could raise this with you. Do you, from within that context, do you believe that we have within our investigative processes now, from the security force, from police force, etc., do we have that type of technological depth, and in terms of the courts now, the judicial clarity to really prosecute these crimes effectively?
I must say that the security forces, the police here in Jamaica, they have been very effective in terms of going after those persons and bringing them before the court. In fact, that was the Lotto Scam Act more or less armed them to the extent where they were able to go after those criminals and also successfully prosecute them in the court. That oftentimes when they have done their proper investigation and they make an arrest, usually that leads to a conviction. Again, we have also invested as a government in the equipment and the training. So our security forces are on par in terms of the technologies available out there for crime fighting in this particular space. And we continue to make that investment. And that is why we see the high level of prosecution where, they are able to track and actually identify and not just waiting on physical evidence such as paper trail, but also ensuring that you are able to use the technology to identify the perpetrators, in terms of tracking them down online and being able to bring a proper case before the courts. And we have seen also, in fact, even this I must add here that even in this amendment, we have also included a component where the whole matter of custody and the procedures, the code of procedures, we have developed that with the Commissioner of Police to ensure that, the whole matter of conduct, standard of procedure to seize and or you treat with evidence, the custody and all of that stuff, that it is fair, but at the same time, it allows the court to be able to seize these equipment and devices so that they can be part of the evidence that is brought before the courts. And it must be done in such a way that it protects the integrity of the whole process. So, it is something that we are aware of. So apart from the technology, we also have to have in place a standard procedure that our security forces and other law enforcement agencies must follow in order to be successful in the court.
Yeah, but I'm hearing it. But to be truthful, whereas I don't doubt the intent of the legislation, I really don't, and your personal interventions with this. But what I am concerned about is that sometimes our laws, they've been written at a time where sometimes the penalties don't really match the modern day crime. You have all sorts of loopholes that are introduced because of deficiencies now in the actual statutes that are there. And I'm just concerned because, you see, this matter of cyber crime and cyber fraud and so on has taken on a new life. I mean, when you really reflect on it, Minister, you heard me say it at the top of this conversation. $34.4 million attacks in the first 6 months of 2025. No, that's not something to be scoffed at. And to me, where my obvious discomfort is, I don't know that I see sufficient deterrence in the legislation. I understand the intent, but I don't know that I see enough deterrence in it. That's my fundamental concern.
Well, we Joseph, but for example, even with the situation where someone should publish intimate images of a child, someone under the age of 18, then the court can give them a prison term of up to 20 years, which I feel is a very severe punishment. But again, we're operating in an ever-evolving landscape, and that is the truth. And as we will have to review the legislation continuously to ensure that it is appropriate for the time. For example, artificial intelligence is now an important component of the digital space. And as such, we have now amended the legislation to look at even persons using artificial intelligence, AI, to defame, maliciously attack someone. It is a continuous process. And I don't want us to believe that in this day and age, that a piece of legislation will just be sufficient and will last forever.
No, of course not.
In fact, because persons are so smart, they utilize the technology that is obviously meant for good. They see the loopholes, and as such as they identify these loopholes in the technological space, we now have to ensure that we put measures in place to protect our citizens. So the truth, Joseph, is that legislation must not be seen as a one-off thing. It must be seen as something, especially in today's digital space, that is ever evolving, that it must evolve with the time. And that is just harsh reality. What happens is that parliamentarians and drafters of legislation will have to put in more work, to ensure that we protect our citizens.
No, and that's a fair comment. But no, you have some other aspects of it now. And this is in terms of now the reporting of some of these issues. Because I am particularly concerned about our financial institutions. I mean, we had one representative famously saying a couple of years ago that basically this citizen must be aware of their own challenges, which I found to be not only offensive, it was just completely tone deaf. But the issue for me where this is concerned is how do we treat with this sort of issue now, whereby I'm looking through the legislation, but the original pieces of legislation plus the amendments, and I'm not seeing where we have mandatory reporting. I don't know if I missed it.
Joseph, I'm glad that you raised that matter.
Okay.
In fact, mandatory reporting is part of a legislation known as the Data Protection Act, right? Where, in fact, persons who treat with data, they have a responsibility, or entities, they have a responsibility in terms of safeguarding that data. And if there are any breaches, should notify the Office of the Information Commissioner within 72 hours, and also the person whose data was breached. It is something, it has become the standard in a lot of jurisdiction. So if, for example, someone is a bank experience a cyber incident, then that incident must be reported under law. And there is a protocol in place. And the person whose data was breached must also be informed as well. And we see that in other jurisdictions. So, and there are penalties associated with it. In some cases, even revocation of license if persons fail or institutions fail to abide by the regulation. So the Data Privacy Act is a very active piece of legislation. So again, financial institutions, you name it, that are treating with personal information or data relating to a particular person or individual, then they have a responsibility as well.
No, all right. I'm hearing on that, and from that I dovetail quickly into this one. I'm aware government of Jamaica has what they call a security operating center. I mean, whatever the actual name you give it, it exists for the government of Jamaica, for I suppose the public sector. But I'm curious, has that sort of diligence gone down to at the sectoral level for the private sector? Do we have this similar types of facilities or arrangements, I should say?
I think the private sector do have that, but not all institutions. But for the government, for the public sector, we have that in place.
But you see, Minister, this is where we start to get into some of the knotty problems, because it seems to me that for too much of it, to me, perhaps I'm not being democratic, but too much of it seems to be almost discretionary. And for the quantum of money that is involved because you're not talking about just stealing people's money. You're talking about reputational damage. You're talking about ransomware. You hijack people's things. And you can, of course, sabotage government infrastructure, public infrastructure.
Correct. You're correct. But Joseph, what we have seen is a marked increase in terms of investment in the public sector. Clearly, the financial institutions have that system in place, or systems of that nature in place. Small businesses now, they themselves now are moving apace with that. And that is why the Office of the Information Commissioner was set up, and it is being what you call now fully staffed to ensure that, and we're also not only about putting in the office, we are also actively engaged in public education in all sectors, public, private, even at the school levels, where we are going into the schools to start to train our citizens at that early age, how to treat with these things. So the public education drive is active, and we are stepping up gear in that regard. In fact, it was just last week I was presented with a document.
Okay.
So this is from the Office of the Information Commissioner. It's called the Privacy Champions. It's about puzzle maze, word games, and this is for our students.
Right.
To raise the level of awareness. So, we are taking this thing serious, the whole matter of data privacy. And
I have no doubt in Minister. I have no doubt. But you see, here's the other side of it. No, and when you're having these conversations, people come at you with all sorts of things. The issue of privacy. Yes, you're doing the monitoring. Yes, you're doing that. But then you're going to have those who will say, so what about the data privacy aspects of it? I mean, to what extent are there safeguards to protect data privacy in this sort of dynamic?
No, the So we have the legislation in place, and we have the Office of the Information Commissioner in place. We have the public education component, and a lot of institutions, private institutions, and public institutions. So we know that the public institution, because they are part of the government, they will have to put in place the necessary mechanism and safeguards. Of course, the legislation speaks to entities that now have in their possession data of individuals and how they must treat with it and how they must safeguard it, and the protocol that must be established for even them to access it in the course of everyday business within their institution. So we are very much conscious about data privacy, because no one wants to wake up in the morning and see that their life is out there without permission, without consent. And so we have been very, very, very much cognizant of that. And we have been very much, strident in ensuring that we not only enforce, but we also educate. We educate persons whose information, how they put their information out there, how they give entities access to their information, and the entities themselves, how they treat with that information once they have that in their possession. So it's serious business, and it is work that the government is committed to doing. But again, it is not just a one-off initiative. It has to be a continuous drive, a multi-pronged approach, public education, and of course, systems must be established and adhered to.
No, fair point. But then let me put this to you then. So then, even within that context, there is, I don't want to call it decided, but there is clearly some reluctance in treating with the issue of the misinformation, the misinformation and disinformation within the system through the legislative branch. I mean, I notice one could hardly ignore the thought processes advanced by former Minister Malahoo Fort, who has been very strident in her thoughts where this is concerned. And I'm wondering, if we're doing the Cyber Crimes Act, why not just treat with the obvious one of the obvious elephants in the room, which is the misinformation?
Well, so again, the cybercrime speaks is not that specific. Misinformation is something that we have to take up, to be quite honest with you. The amendment as it is now speaks more to publishing without consent, intimate images and contents that are captured, generated as with AI, are created. And also the whole matter of sending, transferring, posting, disseminating, or otherwise providing access. The matter of misinformation or that propaganda is something that we will have to look at carefully. We are saying, for example, the United States, they are having issues with that. You don't know what is real, what is true, and we are not using that as an excuse. And so that is something that we are currently examining. In fact, it was just last week, Thursday, the team and we went through the whole gamut of issues, persons are trying to confront as it relates to propaganda and misinformation. It is sometimes, this thing they call freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, sometimes it is not used properly, causes more harm or does more harm than good. And so,
no, true, but
it is something that we, while protecting the rights of an individual to express themselves, they must also be responsible in terms of what they say, in terms of not defaming or putting out propaganda that really hurts other persons. So that is something that we are examining as we speak, Joseph.
No, I hear you, Minister, but you say I have to delve a little more into this, because I wish it were just propaganda. Honestly, propaganda, frankly speaking, more often than not is a half-truth that is being done for political purposes and so on. That you can deal with. What I am looking at, and where I'm concerned, and what triggered the concern in particular, was right after Hurricane Melissa. Had this person come out, media, the social media picked it up, etc., that for persons to benefit from the hurricane relief, they had to provide, TRN and a whole host of things, which, frankly speaking, not only was it a flat-out lie, it created a barrier in the midst of a natural disaster. Now, to me, that sort of thing, you have to deal with it very quickly.
I agree, and you know, it is something that the government is actively discussing right now to put in place necessary protection for citizens and deterrence for persons who want to go down that line. In terms of, it's a form of scamming. It's scamming, but it's scamming because they would want to capture the sensitive information such as TRN and all these information of a particular of individuals to do what they want to do with them. That's how they scam persons, by going into their accounts or sending messages and use it to create fictitious identification, credentials. So that's something already. But you're right, Joseph, in terms of that type of misinformation during a disaster that would have created a barrier for persons who actually are in need of assistance and want to communicate with the government so that the government can get the necessary information to respond appropriately, that, they would use such an opportunity to commit some nefarious act or something that, really just add to the trauma of having gone through a disaster.
But Minister, may I point out to you why this is even more urgent than probably you guys are treating with it right now? Do you realize under our public mischief legislation, this is what gives me concern, Under our public mischief legislation, you know that you have to report it to the police for it to be treated as public mischief, eh? Of course, nowadays ain't nobody going to any police station. In a few seconds, as it were, they transmit the information to potentially tens of thousands of people. It's nobody going to that. So in other words, to me, that is a kind of legal loophole or gap that I am seeing within the system that speaks to the absolute need for urgency in treating with this. And in that context, I would ask you, because you say that the government has these things under consideration, do you have even a notional timeline within which we can look to see something of this nature being brought?
Well, I do hope by the latter part of this year we'll have something in place. Right now we have just put in place, reappointed the AI task force, which will be dealing with the policy document and, of course, the legislation with AI. Again, that is something that is very urgent. We have also put in place the cyber task force as well, which I believe will they were just approved by cabinet 2 weeks ago, and we anticipate that they should start working in another week or so when they get their instrument. And we are putting them on a very tight timeline to do the necessary work so that we can have that now public consultation and take it from there. Because again, in this day and age, we have to ensure that we get as much inputs when we are creating this type of legislation, dynamic as it is, that impact the lives of our citizens in a real way. Because again, we are living in a digital space. And so again, we have to consult for the most part.
I hear you on that, Minister, but what we don't want to get caught up in, I would put to you.
Over consultation.
We don't want to get up.
You don't want to get caught up in over consultation?
Exactly. And you just end up in a sort of bureaucratic quagmire that he can't do anything really. Because you see, when I look at what is happening globally, the kind of damage that these things are doing and can potentially do, it seems to me that when we're looking at it, you have to consult with people, obviously. But at the same time, you have to move with what I would call deliberate speed. You don't have the luxury of time because the people are not waiting on you to do what you're doing. And frankly, in a small society, which would be applicable straight through this entire Caribbean, all the countries are small. We don't have that bandwidth, I would put to you, to treat it as a stain that I can.
I agree. I agree. And so usually when we are doing the consultation, there's a time limit. It is not something that is going on in perpetuity. We normally see, for example, submissions within a month. and we examine the submissions, whether it is written submission or maybe persons coming in and addressing at the Joint Select Committee that we usually establish to do these things. So, in fact,
see,
we
that is
also
where
have
I
an idea.
start-
We would,
No, it's just, that's where I start to get worried, because when you start to say that, no, what I'm starting to hear now is words I've become very familiar with over the years. How is it now? Blue paper, white
no man,
paper,
no man, no,
and
we're
all
not,
of
we're
that
not, we're not,
drama
we're
going.
not, we're not, white paper and green paper.
Green paper,
Put it
yes.
this way. No, we are very cognizant of the importance of getting this done. So we have to move at the speed at which things are happening now. So gone are the days when we have these things just sit down and for months and even years before it is sorted. So we are very aggressive in that regard, because again, we want our people to be able to operate safely in that space and feel confident that, listen, and the truth is, if we do not have the level of that ecosystem that supports them, and for them to feel confident to operate in that space, we will be left behind. And that is just the harsh reality. Artificial intelligence is now forcing us to retool and rethink how we do business. We have to retrain the workforce, especially those in the BPO sector. It is just what it is. And so as we do that, we have to simultaneously create legislation that supports and protects our citizens. So we don't have the luxury, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But then, Minister, two last questions for you, because I know you're busy and time is going for us as well. One, are there attendant regulations that will go with these amendments? And
Correct.
if they are, have those been tabled as well? Or when was the timeline for tabling?
So the bill is now at the Senate. And when the Senate meets, we expect them to deliberate and pass. Because again, the recommendations or the changes to the bill were already approved. The report that led to the amendments were already approved by both houses of Parliament. And as such, and it's coming from a Joint Select Committee again, comprised of members of both sides of the aisle and from both houses. So again, that should be a very quick process. Whenever the Senate meets again, they will just do that, because I spoke to the leader of the Senate, and they are eager to get this matter over with. So we expect that. So in short order, the regulations will be put forward, because they already been worked on. It's just in anticipation for us to get it out there.
So the regulations will follow as soon as the Senate passes?
ASAP.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Because you know that's part about the challenge we have throughout the region. We do the legislation and the regulations lag, and exactly it becomes ineffectual. All right. Last question for you, Minister. In this specific space, what does success look like for you?
You know, success is when our citizens, especially as it relates to this particular legislation, you know, digital transformation is upon us. We have to embrace the reality of the times that we are living in a digital space. Every aspect of our life is now touched by digital technology. You know, whether it's social media, whether it is using artificial intelligence, such as GPT, whether it is even how we are communicating now, is digital. Yeah. Days gone are days when we are to be in the same studio, in the same space to do one interview. And so for me, success is having our citizens embrace technology, utilizing technology for good, and unleashing their innovative capacity, and also that the legislation provides the level of protection as relates to this type of, let's say, cybercrime, that we provide the protection that will encourage our citizens to feel confident that they can, you know, operate in this space, and a government that supports them. I want them to say, listen, the government is looking out for our interests. They are encouraging us to utilize technology. They want us to operate in digital space, and they are providing necessary safeguards so that we can operate confidently in this space.
Okay, fair point, Minister. But I suppose I have to ask this: from where you sit, are we going to see specific AI legislation coming, or will it be
Yes, yes.
amended or appended to some other thing?
No. So that's it. So as I stated earlier, the AI task force was established, consisting of players within this a wide cross section of persons operating the AI space, from the private sector, business sector, you name it. They will now be putting in place the policy, the AI policy for our country. And from that policy, now we will now develop the legislation, the AI legislation, separate piece of legislation, right? That will push our country forward. And that is where we are. We want to ensure that we are in step with the rest of the world as we incorporate technologies like AI.
Yeah, you have to. And that's where we have to leave it. Minister Andrew Wheatley, Minister of Science, Technology and Special Projects. Thank you so much for your interventions. I'm sure this won't be the last conversation we have on these matters.
I'm sure, Joseph. And I must thank you for having me and for your very, very incisive questions, as usual.
Thanks so much. All right.
In a world of constant change, insight is your greatest asset. At Joseph Cox and Associates, we empower innovation across the Caribbean. Whatever your challenge, we can help. We're proudly customer-centric, offering bespoke solutions tailored to every partner. From innovation and digital transformation to leadership and policy, our services are designed to deliver lasting impact. We partner with leaders across sectors, from finance and government to energy, tech, and infrastructure, helping them navigate complexity with confidence. Our work is grounded in collaboration. We connect regional leaders through powerful networks, driving change through joint research. Discover more at josephcox.org. Joseph Cox and Associates. Insight, experience, impact.
Welcome to Market Watch. We begin in Jamaica, where a $1.44 trillion budget for fiscal 26-27 signals fiscal tightening, with new revenue measures targeting $45 billion over 2 years as wages and debt service absorb nearly 65% of expenditure. Net international reserves have already climbed to $6.7 billion. Tourist arrivals, according to the CTO, fell by 63.6% in December, following a 68% decline in November. Regionally, Antigua and Barbuda has removed 13,500 international business companies from its registry, with another 3,500 dissolving voluntarily as it strengthens offshore compliance amid global forum scrutiny. In the Bahamas, the government's medium-term debt strategy pivots towards 78% domestic financing, while the IMF is pressing for mandatory civil service pension contributions to contain liabilities exceeding 15% of GDP. Nassau has also launched the Price Pal app to increase retail competition and price transparency. Across the ECU, growth nears 3%, masks the stalled debt reduction and productivity constraints, with medium-term expansion expected to slow towards 2.5%. Bermuda's banks reported strong Q3 results, profits up 10%, capital ratios near 28%, and leverage comfortably above minimums. In Trinidad and Tobago, the IMF projects gradual recovery, but warns of fiscal and forex pressures even as crude oil exports average 50,000 barrels per day. Local banks continue tightening U.S. dollar card limits amid persistent forex shortages. Tourism performances remained uneven. Curacao and Guyana are outperforming pre-pandemic benchmarks, while Cuba lags sharply. The Caribbean is still projected to command over 40% of global cruise capacity in 2026, but traffic diverges widely by destination. Guyana's private sector credit has more than doubled since 2020, while record January arrivals signal tourism momentum. Finally, in St. Vincent, there are moves to boost social assistance by approximately 40%, while Cayman moves to reform home loan enforcement rules. But before we wrap, here's a quick look at the regional currencies and market performance. CARICOM exchange rates remain broadly stable, with the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize maintaining their long-standing pegs, while Jamaica trades at $157.04 to the US dollar, Trinidad at $6.75, Suriname at $38, and Guyana at $2.18. Haiti's gourd traded at $131.73. On the equity side, Caribbean markets were mixed. The JC index slipped 0.30% to 340,787 points, and the Trinidad's All TNT index increased by 0.17% to 1,390 points. BISX out of the Bahamas declined by 0.20%, whereas the BSX from Bermuda increased by 0.04%. The BSC and ECSC were flat, while the Caribbean Exchange Index declined by 0.15%. Top performers included Margaritaville, Turks, and Guardian Holdings, up 22.6% and 6.1% respectively. Biggest declines came from JPS, scored 9.5% and 7%, down 15.4% and 13.2% respectively. Now that's it for your Market Watch. I'm Joseph Cox. Global Pulse is up next. This is CBR. Welcome to Global Pulse. Global trade dynamics are shifting again. Fitch estimates the U.S. effective tariff rate has eased to 12.7% from 13.6%, as tariffs on India, Switzerland, Canada, and Mexico were reduced. India's rate fell sharply to 15.6%, while duty-free access for Canada and Mexico now covers up to 85% of imports. Yet tariffs on China remain elevated. U.S. imports from China dropped 45% year-on-year, while Vietnam and Taiwan surged 42% and 118%, reflecting supply chain realignment driven by AI demand. At the same time, tariff revenues helped narrow the U.S. fiscal deficit by 17% year-to-date, but the Congressional Budget Office still lifted its 10-year deficit outlook by $1.4 trillion with deficits projected at 6.7% of GDP by 2036. Inflation, however, is easing, with the U.S. CPI slowing to 2.4% in January, while mortgage rates fell to 6.09%, their lowest level in 3 years. In the United Kingdom, growth stalled at just 0.1% in Q4 2025. Business investment fell 2.7%, and services, which are 80% of GDP, showed no growth. Construction contracted 2.1%, its worst performance in 4 years, and annual growth reached 1.3%. Emerging markets remain the global growth engine, expanding around 4% in 2026 compared to 1.5% in advanced economies, now accounting for over 56% of global GDP. Mexico's inflation accelerated to 3.79%, while Japan's real wages fell 1.3% for a fourth consecutive year. In Europe, policymakers are pushing to expand the euro's global role and fast-track competitiveness reforms. In Asia, China's digital services surplus more than doubled to $33 billion, while the PBOC injected liquidity to prevent a New Year funding squeeze. And Fitch warns that 60 of 119 countries face downgrade risk by 2050 as disaster-linked debt burdens rise. Turning to the global commodity and stock markets, oil prices moved higher, with West Texas Intermediate up 0.08% to 62.89, Brent rising 0.22% to 67.67. The OPEC basket also rose by 0.29%, while natural gas closed at $3.24, up 0.81%. The global equities markets were mixed. The Dow and S&P 500 posted modest gains, while the Nasdaq slipped 0.2%. In Europe, the FTSE and DAX advanced, but Asian markets were weaker, with the Nikkei down 1.2% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng falling 1.7%. Now that's it for the Global Pulse. I'm Joseph Cox. This is CBR. that's a wrap on episode 6 of season 3 of the Caribbean Business Review. Thank you so much to our loyal audience across MKR Radio and all digital platforms for your continued support. As always, we live by our mantra that knowledge is strength, but information is power. Our special thanks to Dr. the Honorable Andrew Wheatley, who guided us on the rudiments of a changing cybercrime landscape and Jamaica's legislative response, shaping digital governance in 2026. Now, the strategic takeaways from the discussion include that 1, digital exposure is high and rising, with 85% internet penetration and 34.4 million cyber attacks recorded in the first half of 2025. Cybersecurity is now a national resilience issue. 2, legislation must evolve continuously. Jamaica's cybercrime framework aligns with international standards but requires ongoing review, enforcement training, and stronger data breach accountability. And 3, cybersecurity extends beyond law enforcement. Public education, misinformation control, AI governance, and digital trust are essential to ensuring citizens feel safe using technology. Now, a new CBR intelligence note entitled Stability Earned, Exposure Remains, Jamaica's Fiscal Experiment, is now live, providing deeper analysis on fiscal risk and structural reform. The latest edition of the Caribbean Financial Dispatch is also live on LinkedIn, WhatsApp status, and via the link in our YouTube comments. To subscribe, please email us at caribbeanbusinessreview@gmail.com. You can also listen to this episode at your convenience on Spotify. So don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and follow Caribbean Business Review on TikTok and all of our other social media platforms. Until next week, same time, same place, I'm Joseph Cox, and this has been CBR.
It's the Everybody Sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagleyburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, hardware, and supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring, and more. At Tools, hardware, and supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hard Heels.
Yes, welcome back to Rebel Radio. And you know it's Monday. So this is where we take a look at what is happening at the workplace. Yes. Yes. As you know, at Rebel Radio, we always look at the importance of labor and capital. I have with me Senator Keith Duncan and President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Mr. Wayne Chen. Gentlemen, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sirs.
Yes.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, Wayne.
Yes. Now, let me kick off the ball. Yes, let me kick off the ball in with you, Mr. Duncan. You are on record as saying that the public sector's wage bill should be capped, and you maintain that position. Now, some of the people, especially in the trade union movement, I hear them respond to this and ask, how you did not ask for the capping of the salaries to the politicians. So
they're all public servants.
yes. So tell my listeners and viewers, what is the justification for your position?
Okay. Thank you very much, Desmond. And let's begin. Let's start at a number of years ago, about 2000. Our wage bill then was $221 billion for the year, right?
Yes.
That is our wages and salaries, all right? And then we did the compensation review. We moved the government of Jamaica did 300 salary scales and condensed them to 16 to 19 new salary bands. And they scrapped, a whole ton load of allowances, like 185 allowances were scrapped. And full compensation review and benchmark them to the private sector, right? And that's salaries increasing from $200 billion in between 21-22 and 2024-25 to $423 billion. And for this year, salaries, so therefore in 5 years from 2021 through 2025-26, our wage bill to approximately $500 billion, right? Wages and salaries, right? And that's a significant movement. Now, up to 21-22, the public sector, had really sacrificed significantly for allowing for this compensation review to take place and then for it to be benchmarked to the private sector. And they got increases that were well deserved. Right? But when we look at where we are in relationship to our tax revenues and our GDP, now if you recall, we had a fiscal rule in place where we said wages should be about 9% of GDP. Right? And in 21-22, we're about 9%. And we have now moved to, in 25-26, 13.8% of GDP, right? And therefore, and of our tax revenues, in 21-22, it was at 36% of tax revenues, now at 3% of tax revenues. For every dollar of tax revenue that we bring in, 53 cents goes to public sector wages and salaries, right? 56 cents. When you look at the regional, 53 cents on every dollar goes to wages and salaries for the public sector. Now, nobody want, we all want to be able to pay our public sector all workers well, but we have to be able to afford it, right? So when we look at the regional averages, like as a percentage of tax revenue, across the Caribbean, it's about 36, about between 36 to 38%. The global average as wages and salaries as a percentage of tax revenue is about 36%. So we're way out of the ballpark, right? Now, as we go forward and in a business, you can't run in a business and put yourself into a loss position. You can't run your government and put yourself into a deficit position, and it also reduces your fiscal flexibility. So where you could be investing in health, education, in capital expenditure, in other programs, you are constrained by the fact that you have this fixed cost in your budget, which is consuming 53% and projected to be over 50% over the years. Is that where we want to be? No, that's not optimal. It's actually suboptimal. Best way to fix this is to grow the economy so that you economic activity higher GDP levels, right?
Yes.
That is the best way to do so. You know, you know, so you and also, but you have to manage your costs.
Yes.
For any business, you have to manage your costs. You have to manage your costs. You don't really have a choice but to manage it, or unless you are, what you're doing is just you have this fixed cost, and therefore you're unable to invest education because you're constrained in your health sector, in innovation, in increasing productivity because of this large wage and salary bill, which consumes over 50% of your budget.
Right. So
of your tax revenues.
In other words, what you're saying is affordability you're talking about. Is that the economy as is can't afford.
Yes.
Can't afford it. And as you indicated, that the best way to do this is to grow the economy. But Mr. Duncan, one of the things that you would have observed with the Jamaican economy for many, many years now, that it is not growing. That is a very big issue.
Right.
The economy not growing, and I don't see any plans that is going to make the economy grow. The administration has not forward any plan to grow the economy, and therefore we are left in this position.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, let me just quickly respond because I know you might want to bring in Wayne. But let me just say, the first thing we had to do was get to a level of macroeconomic stability. We're able to, over the past 13 years, 10, when Bruce Golding put in the fiscal responsibility framework, and then we had the work of Dr. Peter Phillips in really putting in some really hard work to get to streamline our fiscal affairs, and that continued effort from the Andrew Holness, the led administration, and Dr. Nigel Clark especially, along with Audit Shaw. But they've now gotten to a place where our debt to GDP was down to 60%. Right? Our inflation numbers were a lot more contained within a range. We have a 4 to 6% target range. Exchange rate volatility has much reduced, and therefore you have a foundation to build on. So I agree, and as a result of, prior to that period when we were running high debt levels, what used to eat up a lot of our tax revenues was servicing our debt. Now, what is eating up a lot of our tax revenues now is public sector salaries. Now, in turn, reduce the fiscal flexibility, you cannot invest as much as you want in capital expenditure, innovation, and growth, in building the skill sets to drive a new economy, to build out your digital infrastructure. That is where we need to manage, and I do agree our economy has been in a 1 to 2% range for the last 40, 50 years, and we need to get out of here. But you needed to get stability first. So you have to protect that fiscal responsibility and that fiscal house that we have. Yeah, and that is pretty secure, and we pull us. But we need to know our numbers so we can say, this is where our numbers. I believe the public sector should be responsible and look at the numbers and say what is a reasonable ask. And as everybody wants to earn more money, but what can we as a country afford at this point if we want to put some effort and focus around growth and increase in productivity? And how can the public sector increase their productivity, service delivery, in order to speed of delivery of services, so shall we get more efficient?
Yes. Wayne, what is your take on the senator's argument so far?
It's as usual, that's hit the nail on the head. One of the significant things he has left out in answering your question is, what have we done about moving Jamaica to strong, sustainable
sustained and inclusive economic growth, and would add reduction in violent crime. The thing is that each of these components are necessary but not sufficient. We need a collective reset of the country and society to build that strong platform for growth. But I want to take you back to a number that is even more shocking to me. We had a fiscal re-engineering of the country based around a
you are breaking up, Wayne. You have to repeat what you said a while ago because I lost you. Wayne? I don't know what is happening here. We're having some telephone issues. Senator, are you there?
I'm hearing
Yes.
Yes.
Doris?
No, I said...
Are you hearing me now?
We lost you for a little bit.
You have to go back.
Yes. The important and scary number.
Yes.
The important and scary number is the percentage of taxes, but even scarier is the percentage of GDP that we've moved from the 9% to 13.8%. The fact is, and I'm sorry my union colleagues are not here, something's got to give. We're going, in the past, it was debt servicing that was crippling us. It cannot be the public sector wage bill that cripples us. No, I'll put a big caveat in. If the public sector was capable, efficient, and productive, it wouldn't be an issue. It would not be an issue.
Yes.
A small, vulnerable economy, you need a capable. There are certain considerations that a public sector would have that a big continental economy may not have. And I put the word very pointedly, may not. And I'm sorry that the conversation, the meaningful conversation, because we talk about it a lot, even on this program, Desmond, is about productivity. The fact is that a couple of weeks ago, I can't recall when it was, Minister of Innovation, Digital Transformation, and I can't remember the other one, Efficiency, announced at long last, because we have been lobbying for it for a long time, of flexi-work arrangements in the public sector.
Yes.
It's a necessary step, necessary but not sufficient, like many of the things we are talking about. We have to create a productivity culture within the public sector. And the private sector, and Keith is a businessman. In the private sector, we are punished if we are not productive. We're punished by the market, punished by our customers and clients, punished by our shareholders. The fact is that government needs a similar type of oversight. Too many people in the public sector are working in inefficient processes, too much paper. Too many people in the public sector just turn up for work without any measurement of outcomes or output. And this is going to require, and Keith is very familiar, it's going to require a deeper social dialogue. And you hear me on this all the time, Desmond. We need to set a cap, 13.8% of GDP, 50-odd% of taxes to rise is unsustainable. It is going to crowd out necessary capital spending. We have to be spending more on retraining and training up our workforce. 40% of the workforce have certified skills. There's a 50, almost 60% without any certifiable skills, much less the skills for a modern economy, much less for the skills for a virtual economy, because a part of building a sustainable economic growth in the future is to tap more Jamaicans into the global world of work. So we don't have the concentration risk of hospitality, of agriculture, of remittances, which is where we are now. We have to build resilience in. This talk after Melissa, this talk after the pandemic has to be more than talk. We have to build for the future of work.
But gentlemen,
this will require, this will require, as Keith said, more robust digital infrastructure. Right now we lose productivity just by being on the road. I did a calculation for another program the other day. where half hour on the road in the KMA costs the economy about 40 billion Jamaican dollars per year.
Okay.
We have to build more efficiency into the infrastructure. But more efficient, more important, we have to execute very quickly and intentionally the digital transformation of the public sector. There are still too many processes, still too much paper, and we can do it pretty quickly. We don't use data enough. There's a big space in this country for data-driven policy making, but we don't like it. We like vibes.
But
where's the data analytics?
But gentlemen, who is going to take the lead in all of this? Because we have been talking about this for a very long time, you know. So who's going to take the lead? I would argue that the state must take the lead in getting these things done.
Well, you know, I think my friend Keith, when he went into the Senate, he brings much of that thing here. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn to say that, because his company,
right.
I know JMB for a long has been the leading edge in much of what I talk about.
Mm-hmm. And we continue to push even further into, you know, process improvement, digitization, and that's, you know, we have to get. I can't talk about it. I can't get it right at home. I can't get it right abroad, right? Yeah. But let me just say, Wayne. I mean, this one. When you look at the state leading, the state has led, and this is coming from Bruce to Andrew Holness and his ministers of finance have led in the fiscal fiscal stability, macroeconomic stability. They have also led in terms of crime reduction strategies, right? And the Prime Minister would have spoken to the whole Aspire agenda around a pivot to growth. You know, I'm expecting to see in his budget presentation context of Melissa recovery and resilience and innovation, and what are we going to do with that, with the capex, the elevated capital expenditure budgets, and how is it going to deal with the resilience of the economy, how is it going to deal with productivity of the economy, etc. So, and for the growth of the economy, because we're being hit hard by Melissa. We lost 4.3% of GDP, and we lost a significant amount of our tax base in with the impact of Melissa. So we have to rebuild stronger, and we have to rebuild resilience, and we have to rebuild smarter, and therefore I'm expecting that we will see. So I'm looking forward to that presentation. We will see how NARA fits into it. And I look forward to it, because even energy, and I think Wayne is a lot more equipped to speak about energy than I am in terms of our cost of energy is still much too high, and that's an area that we need to focus around also, because that impacts our competitiveness. And I'm glad that Wayne would have spoken to the skills development, because that is a really gap for us. As the world changes, you know what I mean, and value-added services, and if you are able to train up your people, increase their income, then they can earn more, and we can move our per capita GDP in that range where we are. So people have more purchasing power, more spending power, etc. But all of these things need to happen, and it don't take a flip of a switch to get into this. As Wayne says, a confluence of things that need to happen to drive us in that direction.
Yes, and the important thing, yes, we know it is not a overnight work, but we have to start. Because while we talk and we...
Well, Desmond, when you say we have started across administration by achieving macroeconomic stability, when you say we have started by the focus and the Plan Secure Jamaica and reduction of crime and invested significant resources into the police force, into the JDF, into community community security, into legislation, into, I would say that we have started in some areas, but we have to put to then focus on some of these areas that Wayne would have identified, etc. An increase in productivity.
Yes.
But all stakeholders need to be at the table.
I see Mr. Vincent Morrison has joined us. Mr. Vincent Morrison, good evening, sir. I have with me Mr. Wayne Chen from the Jamaica Employers Federation and Senator Keith Duncan. Now, Senator Duncan has advanced an argument, not on this program, he has been advancing it for some time, that the economy cannot afford to pay any higher service, higher wages for workers right now. As he indicated before you join us, that 53 cents out of every dollar right now goes toward wages. Now, are you in agreement with this?
Well, let me just clarify. I'm not saying that there are no increases. I'm saying we need more measured increases, and we need to observe some restraint on the budget dynamics and our revenues and our where the public sector salaries are a percentage of GDP and tax revenues. And Vincent would have invited me to speak at his trade unions about 2 years ago, Vincent, and I would have made my case.
Just last year.
Last year, very, very clear. Very open, and even as were very open to hearing me. Not that they agree with me, but they heard me out, right? So thank you very much for that, Vincent, and that opportunity.
Well, we will tell you that we have that to nobody. We are Jamaicans, and we believe that Jamaican can only fit when we all come together and do what is in the interest of Jamaica. But when I hear arguments that workers shouldn't get any adjustment in their pay, I can't agree. Because it's not good for the economy, it's not good economics. The issue of aggregate demand must be dealt with. If you don't have money, if the workers are the biggest groups in this country, single group. And if they don't have to support the economy, for example, if the workers don't have money to buy Red Stripe beer won't sell and the place will lock down and we will lose jobs. So that's simple, very simple, very simple. I believe that, yes, we have the hurricane, big gap has been created, but we should not panic. And I think we're panicking because when I look on the budget and the taxation measures, I have some issues with that. Let us take Wesinco, and I can now brief Wesinco, but we represent the workers for about 40 years, right? Very good company, but they just spent a lot of money recently to develop a state-of-the-art facility. Now, when you hit them with this about sweetened drink and what have you, it is the best way to do it. What we should first do going forward as a country, the government is too big. The government of Jamaica is too large. We don't need all the apparatus and the bureaucracy that surrounds the government. And that is where I think a 25% cut would be the best way to go. I think we should look on adjusting maybe the GT, because yes, the poor will be affected, and you see the problem with the poor is that they can't escape anything at all. But it will come with they'll be it. But at least we know that it would have been more equitable to adjust GCT up to a higher number. But we have to find the money, And I agree, we must not rely on borrowing. I agree. I don't like to borrow. The other question: what has happened to all the gift donations that we have got?
No, hold on there.
How far that will carry?
Hold on there, Mr. Morrison.
Yes.
When you're talking about the money that came in after hurricane. No, we have to remember something, is that some of that money, the Bank of Jamaica have some of that money, and there's I think about $300 billion that is available, but that is available in loans, and the government has indicated that it do not want to borrow any more money. The government is sticking to a policy where it is trying to reduce borrowing, right? And therefore, you are not going to. That is why they introduce the taxes.
Normal times, you can have that as a policy, but when you have a 40% economy as a result of this disaster, then it's borrowing more. So, nothing wrong with borrowing. Nothing is wrong with borrowing. If you borrow the money and put it to proper use, productive use, the infrastructural use, you build infrastructure, etc., so that your economy can grow because you'll have more productivity. People don't have to be going to. It's not wrong with borrowing. Private borrowing, when you borrow it and don't spend it properly.
Yes, Senator.
Yes. Let me know.
Yes, Senator.
Yeah. Let me say that. Yes, man. Thank you very much, Desmond. So we would have we're on track now to 60% of GDP this year, like 2 years ahead of target, right?
Yes.
Now, where we are right now is that we're now heading back up to 68%, as in the fiscal policy paper. Yes. But more concerning to me is the fiscal deficit that we're going to run in that we're running this year.
Yes.
Due to $34 billion, right? Now we have become accustomed to running fiscal balances because the 24-25 we had a $7 billion fiscal surplus, $1 billion in 23-24, and $7.7 billion in 22-23. Now we're looking for this current financial year, wrapping it up at $134 billion deficit due to the fallout in tax revenues. That's in spite of receivables, securitization of port receivables. Next year, we're looking to run $190 billion deficit. No, and then the following year, 27-28, $137 billion. So Melissa has really impacted us in a serious way, and therefore we have to find ways and means this deficit. Tax revenues is one option that we have, and they're looking at the syntaxes, and maybe sugary drinks can be defined as a syntax, but cigarettes, alcohol, and sugary drinks, that actually is areas that will reduce the health costs for us over the medium to long term, but also maybe it can change behaviors. Yeah. But when you have a huge deficit like this, we don't like to borrow, and we're going to borrow, and the debt to GDP is going to increase next year, and our debt levels are going to increase. But we have to really balance out everything and say, all right, are we going to buffer those revenues that are lost as a result of Melissa? And how are we going to, offset in other words, bring in more revenues, and how are we going to manage our costs? Yeah. And on the cost side, the biggest component of that is wages and salaries, which is 53% of tax revenues.
The other thing, before you go, Mr. Morrison, the other thing that I would want us to look at, our export earnings and our import, the money that we have to spend to import goods and services. Let us just take a break before we comment on that. This is Rebel Radio. Let us take a break.
everybody's sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagleyburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, hardware, and supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring, and more. At Tools, hardware, and supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hardware.
Yes, welcome back to Rebel Radio. We are on Workers' Time, and we have with us this afternoon Mr. Vincent Morrison of UCASE, Mr. Keith Duncan, Senator Keith Duncan, and Mr. Wayne Chen, President of the Jamaica Employers Federation. Yes, gentlemen, before we took the break, I was saying another year that we need to look at is our trade deficit and the amount of money that we have to spend on imports. That is something that needs some attention.
But can you just hold that? Can you just hold that? Like I just answer, just deal with one small item here. Yes. The big item.
Yes.
The contradiction. We talk about sugary drinks and the health question, but at the same time we are promoting the fast food. Something is not the two drinks that the youngsters drink. Those youngsters who have to run up and down and play football and what have you and walk to school. That's not the problem here. The problem is the fast food. It is since the influx of these fast food chains into the country that the government supports totally. That we've been having these serious health issues, and I'm not sure if Mr. That is where the problem is. You just go to Kentucky, and any evening, right? And you see what we're talking about.
Yes.
So I don't know how we're going to deal with that. But what I can tell you, what was done to Westinco, in my view, was totally wrong. And the PM went out there and made a big speech opening this state-of-the-art place. And the next couple of years, a big tax that could very well put them back considerably.
Yeah, but
Westinco is a local company.
But Mr.
Totally local.
Mr. Morrison, what
I know Joe more food like anybody else. We work off him head tied to develop that company.
One of the things
and these are some of the problems I have with the policies.
But one of the things we mustn't do, Mr. Morrison, is that yes, the sugary drinks has a negative impact on health not only in Jamaica. But what I would say is that we have not developed any alternatives. Because remember, some years ago, there were announcements about, for example, alternative drinks, fruit drinks are going to be available for school children. We should reduce the sugary drinks, but where are the alternatives? The alternatives are not in place yet. That is another issue.
That's true.
Yeah, but it is really an impact, and it has a negative impact on health. Those sugary drinks. That's not that.
To blame the health situation just on the sugar drink, and then you ignore and sidestep the fast food. The main problem is the fat.
Yeah. So back to this trade deficit.
This one, I have to go now. This one. This one. Well, you know, we have run a current account over the last 3 years. We have run current account surpluses, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're looking at the trade deficit, the difference between exports and imports, that is where we have a negative, right? But overall current account inflows of US dollars against earnings of US dollars against use of US dollars with territory, even forecasted up to this year. So, but I do agree with you that we have to increase our linkages. We have to increase domestic consumption. You know, and that even in our tourism area where it's like 40% of linkages. If you look next door to the Dominican Republic, they are at 85%.
Yeah.
So we can do a lot more in that regard, and that is where a major focus needs to happen in terms of that overall pivot and growth speed.
Yeah.
How much of the tourist in the country?
Yeah.
How much of the tourist dollars stayed in the country?
No, but that's the linkages we're talking. You know.
We are losing Mr.
Jamaicans.
Yeah.
They call that is the peace dividend.
See them developing even before our eyes. We can export healthcare services because Jamaican, but it is no more possible than it was 10 or 15 years ago. Jamaican healthcare workers have a global reputation for quality. We can hear in the private sector, caring about doing medical procedures here in the country, building up our own public health system.
Health tourism.
We can think about retirement and geriatric care. Jamaican geriatric workers are well in demand in North America and elsewhere. We can employ more of whom are unemployed right here in Jamaica right now, at least working of their skills. So when we talk exports now, a lot of the focus will have to be on services, not so much about services, but providing services here in Jamaica that will earn foreign currency. That pivot, as I was saying, finding more opportunities, virtual economy. Of course, it is tempered by the fact that a lot of the jobs are illegal of new skills. We have to recognize too that artificial intelligence poses an existential threat to many what were white-collar jobs. Many of the
Well, we are losing wind there.
That are currently being done in our BPO sector.
And I thought the issue of
foundation.
Yes. Senator,
I think this matter of health tourism was something that all Jamaicans agree that Manchester was the best place to have that, because of the climate. It's the surge that we have in people coming back from abroad. People went to abroad to learn, to earn, and decide to return.
But you know what to them, Vincent, we don't have to be shy. The high crime, many of them became victims of violent crime. Deterred many. I knew many of them. I knew victims. I knew one lady who said her greatest regret was coming here. She should have gone to this of Spain, like many Jamaicans who, when they saw what was happening home, they said no, they went somewhere else. They go to St. Lucia. They go to Florida.
I have a brother who ended up in Tampa. He went to Mandeville to buy a house and was almost kidnapped.
This is the point.
And just took a plane and ended up in Florida, in Tampa.
We allowed violent crime to get out of hand, and it's a great opportunity. But it's coming back. It's coming back.
There's a lot of opportunity. I think agriculture, I don't think we are dealing with agriculture. We're just a little bit better than the whole market approach. I mean, again, I want to talk about Manchester. There's a farm in Manchester that usually run Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Elizabeth for years, long before Boxtide came. You should know go to the farm.
Yes, man, of course.
We gave it to the Russians, who have about 20 odd cows on it, 500 acres of land. It's all forest. It's a tragedy. When we could get 300 farmers between Clarendon and Manchester and St. Elizabeth to take over that farm and at least to keep Dr. Lecky's.
Well, you know, two things took a hit. The citrus industry took a big hit, and the dairy industry took a big hit.
The citrus industry, the coffee industry. Don't mention the lowland coffee.
And the other thing I want to add.
I usually go to the PC bank to collect my coffee money, you know. And when I collect, I could reach the counter, you know. They have to pull me up, and when I collect the money, I run straight home. I didn't stop with my friends then. Because that's what school.
We're missing a big opportunity. We're missing the opportunity to the greenhouses. There was one year, you know, that the parish of Manchester, which has very little flat land and hardly any river water, led the country in vegetable production, you know, because of the drought elsewhere. But because a lot of the production in Manchester is greenhouse based, it wasn't subject to drought. But the problem we have is that we have these good examples to introduce new technology and make farm technology driven. You know, the Netherlands, which is a high-wage economy, is the world's second largest exporter of food by value. A small, high-income economy.
Food that is
farmers earn plenty money, but they have to be more.
In 4 months, when I go on the farm in the United States and Canada and see what they produce in 4 months.
I went on the farm tour in Canada for a week in October 2022 to go and visit our farm workers.
Yes.
Drive up the whole of area that in his whole stamping ground and saw the whole of Jamaicans out there. But you know the danger? When I saw them planting apple trees wide enough now, apart, that it could take a mechanical picker, you know, that the days of hand-picked apples are so close to end it.
Well, the sugar industry in Florida had that too, you remember? 40,000 Jamaicans usually go to cut cane each year.
Yeah, man.
But
I had my friends used to go to Belgrade, and you know Belgrade.
Yes.
Excuse me, and gentlemen, I have to leave.
Yes, Senator. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good talking.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Good to hear you, man.
Good to hear what you've been saying. Thank you, Wayne. We have the solution.
No, man, we have a catch up. No, we need to go from ideas to action.
Yes, sir.
Yes. That's it.
Thank you.
That is a very good point you make there.
Desmond, it's not that we haven't, even in this forum, you know. But we each time we hit the wall, we come back and we do better, you know. We have learned, and we must give ourselves some credit for the progress we have made in learning what to do.
Yes.
I mean, it took we are pretty familiar. You too, Vincent, pretty familiar with the whole social dialogue process coming out of the early 90s at the LAC, coming out of tripartism, because, you know, me and you meet down there all the while. Well, not often enough, I will tell you this. Not often enough. But it has allowed a certain measure of peace in the country that we don't deserve. Not from the pressure that people are under, but we do it because we know it's good for the country. And that trust that we have built among ourselves, we have to leverage it now. I mean, I might say something controversial here, but the stance taken by the president up north, that with the anti-migrant, anti-immigrant sentiment, has made a lot of Jamaicans who live in that country uncomfortable and would like to come back, you know.
Yes.
For the first time, we can curb brain drain, which has hobbled us for generations.
Yes.
For the first time, but we have to build a platform here now to welcome home the talent and the energy that left here and build up another country.
Yes, of course.
So there are many things that have to happen at the same time, you know. I am not an ideologue when it comes to boy, we can't raise the wages in the public sector. What I will say is let us have a discussion around productivity? How do we measure output? How do we change the processes to make them more efficient? We might now have let us use a number. We might have 110,000 public servants. So suppose we say now we're going to cap the wage bill at 500 billion. Use a number. Suppose it was 80,000 earning the same 500 billion. That would represent a 30-40% increase right there, you know.
Yes.
But they would have to demonstrate that the output of the public sector has gone up. So I'm not ideologue to say this is the right number or this is what. What I do say is that whatever we do must be sustainable, because we've been there before and something gives, and then we sit down in the boat is drifting, and everybody wonder why the boat is drifting.
Yes.
But tell me something, do we have any data on employment figures in the public sector over the last 5 years?
Net increase?
Increase.
I'm sure we do, but I don't get a sense there has been a net increase. In fact, what I will say is that just using health as a matter, they have filled prominent posts. So technically there has been increases in posts that are filled for tenure. But in terms of new posts, I don't think we have created that many. In terms of numbers actually paid by the public purse, I don't think the number has changed significantly. So that is not our issue. Our issue is productivity.
Yes.
Are we getting value for money?
Yes.
We went through a big public sector compensation exercise, and it came at, of course, the end of a long period of sacrifice by the public sector workers. No doubt about that. 2012 to 2022 was a tough 10 years, eh? But we can't take our eye off the ball. We can't. 13%, I think Keith said about 13.8% of GDP is not sustainable.
No.
It's just not. 53% their tax revenue. Crowds or worse with the dynamic shifting up because of Melissa, moving back from the 60-ish to 67 and 68. Means that debt servicing has gone up. So if public sector wages go up, debt services go up. God bless us God help us because we don't have sufficient for capital investment.
And production going down.
That is the point. And you know, people say this is all highfalutin talk. But I want to put it in very simple terms so ordinary Jamaicans can understand. And I'm going to use a farming analogy, Vincent, because you're a farmer at heart. If you were a farmer and the crop, hurricane lit the crop this year, and you have not harvested as much corn as you would normally be used to, and you know you have to replant a certain amount, not only to get the same crop you had last year, but to get an improved crop each year, because your children are getting bigger, you have greater expenses, there's greater expectation. You have a very tough choice to make, you know. You're either going to bang your belly a little bit and plant more corn, or you're going to eat some of the seed corn knowing that the crop in future years is going to be diminished. That is it on a national scale, you know. There are times when you get hit, where there is disease, where there is hurricane, where there is drought, and you're just going to have to eat a little less corn because you still have to plant more corn if you want a bigger harvest.
Well,
us eating the seed corn is not going to the future generations well. So if we are not reinvesting, it is going to come out at some point down in the future. When we look at much of the infrastructure in the country, whether it's the hospital rundown, whether it's a road rundown, whether it's a water supply system not up to mark, that is because at some point in the past we weren't investing well. I don't say money wasn't spent, you know, don't get me wrong. Money may have been spent, but it may not have been spent well. So when I talk about public sector efficiency, we have to get value for money, no doubt about it.
Money not spent well.
I put it very euphemistically.
I like that term, money not spent well, because whatever you do, if you get all the money as gift, or if you borrow it or what have you, and you don't spend it well, you're going to be going around in circles.
Yes, sir.
You're not going to go anywhere, and that does not.
So, Mr. Morrison, what is your take on the whole issue of affordability? don't you think, based on the current situation, that the government can afford to pay more than it as it is offering so far? Mr. Morrison? Wow, I've lost. We have Mr. Chen? We just lost my guest. They are trying to reconnect now. Yes. And I don't know what has happened there, why we just lost. Yes. Let me try again. We have a telephone issue. We are trying to reconnect with my guest. So we just lost them. Don't know. Let me try again. Yes. We don't have any internet problem. Yeah. I don't know what has happened. Just, yes, lost all contact, trying to reconnect. Yes. Yes, I said, don't know what has happened. Yes, I just lost you. Are you there? Hello?
Just cut off.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just lose you like that. I just lost both of you. Hold it there. Let me try and see if I get back. Wayne, just a second.
This is part of the productivity problem.
Yes, that is part of it. We need proper communication system with us. But I was asking you that, based on the current situation now, what is your take on the government offer so far? Because it is an affordability issue now.
Well, it was always an affordability issue, according to government.
Okay. Yes.
But you see, you've got to manage the economy. You can't tell the workers, look, so-called price increases, but at the same time, you're sucking up the price increases. You can't get a wage adjustment that will at least allow you to survive.
Yes.
And that's where the problem is. If the effort was being made to say, look, we have a disaster in terms of Hurricane Melissa, right? So prices and wages are price. Prices has to, if you don't want to call it control or what have you, but prices are price level have to be dealt with in a certain way.
Yes.
But what I see around the country, the supermarkets, even when you stop at the go to buy ackee, right? Or buy coconut, right? All over. The prices are, people just move prices as a bill.
Yes. Yes.
So if the workers don't have the money to spend, where the aggregate demand is going to come from?
Yes. Well, Mr. Morrison, I tell you what, we have exhausted our time this evening, but we have to continue looking at this issue because it is a very serious issue, very serious, and we have to find solutions because this is our country. So let us say to be continued. Right?
All right. Okay.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, but that was workers' time for today. We have to say thanks to our guest. We had Mr. Vincent Morrison of UCASE, Senator Keith Duncan, and Mr. Wayne Chen of the Jamaica Employers Federation. As I indicated, this is something that we have to continue to look at. This wage issue is very serious. This is Rebel Radio. Let us take a break.
It's the Everybody Sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagleyburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, hardware, and supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring, and more. At Tools, hardware, and supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hardware.
Out a comment during the Frankly Speaking show. On your computer, look to the right of the video. That's your live chat hub. Click the Say Something box at the bottom, type your message, and hit enter. Boom, you're live. On the mobile app, it's just as easy. Tap the live chat button right under the video to open the window. Pro tip, if you're in full screen mode, tap the screen once and hit the chat icon to see messages without leaving the action. Can't type? Check two things. Make sure you're signed in and see if subscribers only mode is on. You might need to sub and wait a few minutes. Keep it respectful, follow the mod's rules, and have fun.
Good day. JP said it has restored electricity to more than 95% of its customers who lost service because of Hurricane Melissa. At the same time, frankly speaking, consumers are paying higher amounts for electricity and could pay even more over the next few months based on a principle of what I wanted to call shock reduction by the OUR that approved some new costs for JPS in mid-December, some new rates for JPS in mid-December. We will speak with Winsome Callum. She knows all about this. She's Director of Corporate Communications at JPS, and she will tell us what's involved in this rate increase. Regarding that crucial utilities restoration activities, Host Melissa, she will tell us all about that. We know what light means to almost everybody. Also, this episode, we'll bring a special look at AI, courtesy of Winnie Anderson Brown, our other regular panelists. Desmond Richards is here too. Thank you, our listeners and viewers, for joining us today for this, the 197th episode of the Frankly Speaking podcast. Remember, we invite your comments and queries during the podcast, as suggested earlier in the program. Joshua gave us some new ways of reaching the program. So just please place your comments and questions on the YouTube channel, as outlined at the start of the program. And remember to subscribe if you have not done so yet. So welcome, a special welcome to Winsome Callum. Ms. Callum, please give us a brief update as to how many customers of the JPS are still without electricity, and why, and where are they? Where are these people?
Hi, good afternoon. About 3.5 months ago, Jamaica was struck by a Category 5 hurricane, which was unprecedented, the worst that we've ever seen in Jamaica. And that hurricane caused widespread devastation across the island. Some sections of the island were more badly affected than others, but we saw devastation of the transmission network, something that the extent of which we've not seen before. And as a result of the damage to the network, more than 77% of JPS's customers lost electricity. This means that of our approximately 690,000 customers, almost 540,000 were without electricity after this Category 5 hurricane has passed. So during the hurricane, JPS was able to keep some of our customers on the grid. Not everyone lost electricity. Today, 3.5 months later, we have over 97% of our customers on the grid. This means we have over 573,000 customers on the grid. We have, at this point, I think the numbers that I just gave you, it's 673,000 customers. We have 690,000 customers registered to JPS. And as of now, we have about 673,000 with electricity. So this means that 17,000 customers remain without electricity. That's about 3% of our entire customer base. This 3% of customers who are still without electricity are mostly in the southwestern parts of the island, the parishes of St. Elizabeth, small sections of Manchester, quite a few communities in Westmoreland, small sections of Hanover, St. James, and Trelawney. The 17,000, we are working to reduce this to under 10,000 by the end of February. The reason these persons are still without electricity, as I said earlier, is because of the extent of the damage to the electricity grid in these parishes. And if you've been following what happened with Melissa, you know that the eye of the hurricane it hit directly on the southeastern end of the island. So if you visited Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, you would have seen the extent of the damage to the infrastructure, not just electricity infrastructure, but right across the parishes. Devastation, buildings disappearing, buildings demolished. The same thing applied to the electricity network.
I heard your general manager say that in some cases, the homes or the structures will not be able to take the electricity. In some cases, can you explain briefly what that is?
Yes, our president and CEO would have said that we are working night and day to get electricity into some communities, into the remaining communities. However, what we have found based on our surveys of the parishes and partnership with JSIF, that's the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, we have found that maybe about up to 40% of those who are waiting are not quite ready. And what this means is that some of these persons, they had damage to their homes. In some cases, they had water damage. The homes, the sockets were exposed to water, to flooding. In some cases, the pothead, this is where JPS connects to the home, that pothead that's on the outside of your house, those were in some cases dislocated because of the wind. And in some cases, the stanchions, these are the structures outside where you have your meter. In some cases, those were also damaged. In all of the above cases where you have water damage, wind damage, or structural damage to your home, you will need to get an electrician to check the house to make sure that it's okay to receive electricity. In some cases, repairs are needed. In some cases, the entire electrical installation has to be redone. And in some cases, you need to rewire all or a part of your house. And
a friend of mine from South Centre had asked me, why is the JPS against people approaching their people on the ground to come and do that work? Are you opposed to people approaching?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing here.
No, yeah,
JPS,
no.
JPS.
You said you need an electrician in some cases.
Absolutely.
To do that work.
Yes.
And people are saying, so what's wrong with approaching a JPS man? Because some of you are considering that as a bribe.
So JPS employees are not allowed to connect electricity. But let me separate the two things for clarity. The work on your home, your internal wiring, must be done by a licensed electrician. JPS has nothing to do with that. That is your business, and you decide which certified electrician you choose to do that, and that's the work on your property. What JPS is responsible for, what JPS workers are responsible for, is the connection from the JPS grid, from the JPS distribution line to your home. What had been happening in some communities is that persons were charging people to connect them to the grid. That is what JPS has said very clearly should not happen. What you do on your private property is your business. It's supposed to be a licensed electrician who will do the rewiring and help you to get your home recertified, because once you have to rewire, you need to get your house recertified. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, provides assistance for that. And you can contact JSIF for information. You can get this information also from the Ministry of Energy for rewiring and recertification of your home. This is not JPS's responsibility, and JPS cannot dictate to you who does this on your property. What JPS says is that you mustn't pay anybody to connect you to the grid.
May I just quickly jump in with a comment from Pichir, who says a friend in Cameroons near Montego Bay is still without power. She is in despair. Does that sound reasonable? Someone near to Montego Bay not having power up to now?
And we do have communities in St. James that are without power. I do not have specific information on this community, but what I can say is that there are multiple reasons why a community would be without power. There are generally some access issues that we've had in some of the more rural communities. We also have some damage to the network that is taking longer to get power to you. In some of the laterals, the off roads, the roads that are off the main roads, you might have power being restored to the main thoroughfare, but the laterals may have to wait a little bit longer while the additional work is done to get power to them. And in a lot of cases, what we're finding is that when you have a community where some persons have power and some don't, in many of those cases, it's because the houses are not ready to receive electricity. For the reasons stated earlier of the damage to the pothead, damage to wiring, flooding causing problems with the installation. And this is where you need to get your electrician to sort it out. And once you've done this, you contact your JPS and tell us that you are now ready to receive electricity.
Desmond, I don't know if you wanted to come in here, but Desmond, go ahead.
Welcome. Hello, Miss Callum.
Yes, Desmond.
You know what I find alarming? I have been reporting on the JPS for many years now. What I find alarming, you said a while ago, you have 690 customers, registered customers.
690,000, approximately 690,000 customers, yes.
Yes. Now, in a population of over 2 million, the JPS has only 690 registered customers, and I want to point out that this number has been around for some time. What is wrong there, Winsome?
I am not sure of the point that you're making, but the 690,000 households could represent
not individuals.
It could represent 2 or 3 persons per household. So in my house, for example, there are 3 persons, which would add to the population number that you have referenced. There are also those that we call
consumers. So you are saying, sorry, I just want a clarification. You're saying when you speak about a customer, you're not talking about an individual necessarily, but you're talking about households. So what JPS
we're talking
has
about
690,000 households.
Yes, JPS is we can only report on our customers, and so we have 690,000 registered accounts, which could represent different households. In some cases, you might have one property with 3 houses on it that have 3 accounts, and each account could serve, multiple persons in your household. For example, you might have 3 or 4 people. So those are the numbers. We also have persons who are illegal users who have access to the grid and will not be registered customers, but illegal users of the service. And as you know, this is a crime. Stealing electricity is a crime. We do have that as part of the bigger crime problem in Jamaica. And yes, if this is where you're going, this is part of the crime problem that we have in the country.
At the moment, Winsome, what is the loss to JPS for technical losses and illegal users?
We have just over 20% of the electricity that is produced is stolen.
20%. And as usual, the legitimate customers are the ones who pay for that.
This cost is shared between JPS. We have to absorb some of this cost because we are held accountable to implement solutions to address this problem. And there is the cost that is shared among legitimate customers of JPS. The government has acknowledged that theft of electricity is a socio-economic problem, and the utility cannot be held wholly accountable for this crime. And so what the government is doing is to provide some support for persons to become legal, legitimate customers who pay for the electricity that they use. And there are several initiatives that are being implemented to support persons who can't and are willing to come on as prepaid customers. And we've seen some success there across the country, both in the urban and rural parishes.
What percentage of your customers is now prepaid? Because I know you launched that some time ago. What percentage?
I don't have that number with me.
Okay. I want to come back.
Wanted a
Esmond, I don't know if
clarification.
you're finished at that point, because I want to go back to the restoration.
I wanted a clarification for the number of accounts. That includes the business accounts, right? So it's not just household. Am I correct?
That's correct. Right. That's correct.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, there's a suggestion out there, ordinary folk like myself out there looking on. They say part of the problem, part of the extensive nature of the damage to JPS systems was a lack of maintenance. And I'm just giving you the argument that is out there. A lack of maintenance. They say what you can see now is that some of those posts that were knocked over or rotten or not set up properly, or JPS did not maintain the wiring, the trees and the wiring outside on the road and so forth. Can you give us a response to that as to whether a lack of maintenance contributed to the severity of the damage suffered by JPS?
Well, let me say this. I don't think we have ever seen a Category 5 hurricane going at 180 miles per hour and more, based on the reports that we've seen recently on the global stage. I do not believe that we have experienced that in our lifetime. That kind of Category 5 hurricane will cause catastrophic damage to any network. Now, we have heard this opinion put forward before, and in addressing that, what I will say is that one of the reasons why we were able to keep 23% of our customers on the grid during the most catastrophic weather event that this country has ever experienced is because of the maintenance work that has been done. We have seen where distribution lines have stood up because after Beryl, there was significant restoration and resiliency built into the network. So in preparation for this hurricane season, there are a number of things that were done. One was an intensified maintenance program. If you were looking at what JPS was doing leading up to the 2025 hurricane season, you'd have seen an intensified maintenance program. There was significant investment in what we call the structural integrity program. So broadly speaking, there was greater focus on proactive maintenance and investment in structural integrity. Now, this is not to say that we had gotten 100% of it done and completely everything at a point where we could say that we could rest and say we've done all of the maintenance. No, that doesn't happen in any utility. It's an ongoing process where you're consistently improving, consistently maintaining, consistently rebuilding and putting in resiliency, redundancies in your network. So I will say that it is because of maintenance, because of investment, because of inbuilt resiliency, why JPS has been able to not only keep people on the grid during the most catastrophic weather event we've ever seen, but also restore supply as quickly as we have been able to in the aftermath of the hurricane.
So should I accept, therefore, and understand, therefore, that Jamaica will suffer a similar knockdown of its electricity system? Should we have, let us say this year or next year, a similar Category 5 event? In other words, we're going right back there to having a quarter of your persons on the grid, accounts on the grid. But it's just a matter that the system is not built for Category 5. Is that one
No.
correct way of looking at it?
You're correct. This system is not built for Category 5. We've always said that the system is built for a Category 3 event. What we had was Category 5. So in rebuilding, what we are focusing on is building in resiliency, making the grid stronger than before. This is going to take years. This is going to be an ongoing activity requiring significant investment. God forbid, if we should have another Category 5 hurricane in the next hurricane season, we could see a similar impact on the network.
I want to touch the matter of the increase given to JPS in December. Can you just explain? Because I think JPS has a different understanding of it than I do. What I understand is that a 7% increase was granted based upon JPS having shown massive increases in costs, PPIs, and so forth, that it suffered the loss of its revenue based upon how many people came off the system. Is it correct to say that we had a 7% increase in December, based on the November bill, and that for the rest of the year, additional increases might come in, additional to the 7%, to allow JPS to recover some of the extra costs in generating electricity over the time?
So what happens with the costs that go into generating electricity? Every month there are some moving parts on the bill. There's some factors that will change from one month to the next. Now, some of them you have control over as the customer. Some of them JPS has control over. Some of them neither of us has control over. What are the moving parts on the bill? What are the things that change from one month to the next? Now, remember, before I go into the moving parts on the bill, the factors that change from month to month, remember, JPS is a regulated entity. JPS does not set its own rates, and the rates are set by the OUR. So you have a standard energy charge. Now, this energy charge is established by the OUR, and this charge is established only when the OUR does a rate review. So you will have the customer charge and the energy charge. Those are set. The moving parts include the cost of fuel, because it depends on the type of fuel that you use each month. It might be more renewables, or it might be more fossil fuel, oil, or it might be more LNG, that's gas. So it depends on the amount of fuel you use and the cost of the fuel that you use. A third moving part is the actual days of service. Now, if you get a bill for 29 days, 1 month, and you get it for 31 days another month, that will have implications for the actual the charge. So if everything else remains the same and you get a bill for 31 days versus 29 days or 30 days, there is a little adjustment there to reflect the number of days for which you're being billed. Another element of the bill that will change from month to month is the cost. There's a variable cost, we call it, that is paid to the independent power producers. That's the IPPs. These are the other companies from which JPS buys electricity and to sell to customers. Because remember, JPS only provides about 1/3 of the electricity that goes to the grid. The rest of the electricity is provided by these independent power producers. So JPS is not a monopoly when it comes to electricity generation. What we do is collect all of this generation, we pay for it, and we sell it to customers, and the money we collect, we pay to the independent power producers. So what happened in December, and this, let me just make sure we understand. This is something that happens all the time, every month. And remember, Sometimes the cost will go up, sometimes it will go down. With the fuel charge, if you look at your bill each month, you will see where the fuel charge goes up or it goes down, depending on the cost of the fuel this month versus last month or next month. So it will change from month to month. So during the entire course of the year, you will see the fuel charge on your bill going up 2% or going down 6% or going up 11% or going down 5%. So you will have that. In 1 month, you might even see the fuel charge on your bill going down 12%. So this moves. And so 2025, we saw that movement up and down. So what happened in December 2025 was not different from what would have been happening right throughout the year. It would not have been different. What made it different was the fact that as a nation, we were grappling with the challenges of the worst weather event that we have ever faced as a nation. That fuel charge, that increase that you saw that was announced was not any different from what would have been happening right throughout the course of the year. As I said, sometimes it went up, sometimes it went down. So during the hurricane, over that period, there was a higher charge for fuel because of the type of fuel that was used. It wasn't an increase granted to JPS. It was an increase that reflected the money that needed to be paid to the fuel providers and the independent power producers. So let's not interpret it as JPS was granted a rate increase. No, it was not a rate increase that went to JPS in any way, shape, or form. It was an increase in the cost of the inputs to deliver energy to our customers. And because
that was approved by the OUR. And what happened for the rest of the year? So that was an increase, as you said, based upon the fuel costs. What happens now from here forward? Can that price significantly increase over the next few months?
No, you will not see that. As a matter of fact.
Winsome, before you answer that question, what about foreign exchange movements?
Yes,
Isn't that part of the...
Yes, I omitted that. That is also a part of the what makes a bill change from 1 month to the next. When the foreign exchange goes up, because a lot of the material that we buy to produce and deliver electricity is in US dollars, and so that affects the cost of electricity and the movement from 1 month to the next. Now, every single cent that is reflected on your bill as a customer has to be vetted by the OUR. JPS can't just come up and calculate something and say we're going to pass it on to customers. As a regulated entity, the most scrutinized entity in the entire country, JPS cannot make them kind of mistake there. Every cent that you see on your bill has to conform to a specific methodology that is established by the Office of Utilities Regulation. So since that particular announcement, I believe it was November or December, we have seen a reduction in the fuel charge on bills. We have seen the fluctuation that I spoke about that we've had for right throughout the year as an ongoing part of how electricity is calculated and delivered. We have seen that from year to year. So no, there is not anticipated to be any sustained increases in bills coming out of the hurricane. We saw where the fuel charge went up, and yes, there have been instances where the fuel charge went back down. On the fuel charge on your bill would have gone down. I think at that point the fuel charge on the bill was like $29 per kilowatt hour. I think subsequent to that we saw it go down to about $26 per kilowatt hour. So that same sort of movement that is routine, that is normal, that happens right throughout the year, we will continue to see that as part of the methodology that now exists for
clarity. But for clarity, JPS doesn't intend to, or doesn't have to go back to OUR for an increase in fuel rate or any increase whatsoever.
What I think we're missing here is that every single month, there is a change in the fuel charge on bills every single month from Wapikil Phillip. And every single month, when the calculation is done, the OUR sees this information, verifies the information, and it is passed on to customers. So it's not like JPS goes and applies for a rate increase. No, that's not the case. It is that as an oversight body, the OUR has a responsibility to ensure that all charges that are passed on to customers are legitimately incurred charges, like with the fuel charges that come from the IPPs. So it's not an application for an increase. It's just that the OUR has to validate and ensure that these are legitimately incurred costs.
Is this a comment from which we will read in a second, Vincent? I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. JPS is the single biggest economic shackle on the Jamaican people. Privatized monopoly with
no competition.
No competition. Some of the highest electricity rates in the hemisphere and costs that ripple through food,
water, healthcare, and so on. When some you want to make a comment on that, it's not a monopoly provider, we know.
But it is one of we are paying in Jamaica. We in the Caribbean. We are I think the highest.
We are there. 42 cents.
We are facing the highest charges in the Caribbean. I think so. Am I right with that?
You want to respond to that?
Well,
that is not correct. JPS is not the highest in the region. That is not correct. No. It's difficult to address a comment like this that is so fraught with misinformation and bias. The fact is, one, JPS is not the highest charge in the region. That is not true at all. We are about midway. When you look at the charges for electricity across the region, we're about midway. Now, one of the reasons, if you look at what are the charges behind the electricity rate that we incur, one of the biggest contributors is the type of fuel that is used to generate electricity. Now, some years ago, the government sought to start addressing this by starting the movement from oil. Now, oil is the most expensive fuel, and we've been introducing liquefied natural gas and more renewables. So those have helped to keep the cost of electricity relatively flat. But this is something that has to be addressed over the long term. And on the issue of JPS being a monopoly, I think I explained earlier that JPS is not the only generator of electricity in the island. We probably are the one distributor, but we have to compete with others who generate electricity. So although we distribute it, we do not have first dibs on the generation. We have to compete with everybody else. And even in dispatching which unit is serving customers, JPS is not always at the front of the line. What the regulatory environment insists on is that it's the most efficient unit that should be deployed first. So what we find is that it's more renewables that go first, and renewables in Jamaica are not owned by JPS. We have the wind, we have the hydro facilities, but we have different companies owning different renewables that serve the grid, and that's usually the ones that are deployed first. as the most efficient. So in terms of monopoly, it's incorrect to say we have a monopoly on generation, and it's incorrect to say that JPS has the highest rates in the region.
As we wrap up here, let me just ask you.
No, before Winsome leaves, it is easy to check. You can ask AI which has the highest, and certainly Winsome is right. Jamaica does not have the highest. And that information we can get at our fingertips with AI.
Thank you so very much.
And we're going to come to some AI stuff in a little while. And someone just wanted to ask you, you said that in the next 2 weeks, by the end of February, you are expecting to reach another, I think, 7,000 people, customers, accounts that do not know about electricity. Is that correct? Another 7,000 in the next 2 weeks. When do you think you will reach a stage where we have almost nobody? I mean, you might have 10 or 200. When do you think you will reach a stage where that's gone as an issue?
Well, given the level of damage to homes and businesses, we see the restoration process probably going into up to the end of April. What we are projecting is that of the 17,000 customers who are still without electricity, that we would have power to them to 7,000 by the end of February, bringing the total to under 10,000 going into March. What we expect is that it may take us March and April to get power, to make power available to all the remaining communities. What would be necessary is for these persons in these communities to be ready to receive electricity. These persons need to have their homes rewired if necessary, have them recertified, and in some cases people have to rebuild homes. So we will have the power available, but we expect that there will be persons who may not be able to receive it. And so we encourage persons who are waiting to get their service back. We encourage them to get an electrician to check to make sure everything is ordered. So when JPS gets to your community, you can be connected as soon as possible, and you don't have to wait and have to be running up and down at the last minute to get your house wired and passed. And as a reminder,
just as you go, tell us what is going to be done next from the JPS end with regard to theft of electricity. We didn't ask you to prepare on that part at all, but I know just from your knowledge of JPS. Because once upon a time, JPS introduced a RAMI system, and it apparently has failed. I don't know if it has failed, but the large numbers of people remain out there. What can you say to customers who feel hurt that they have to pay for stolen electricity?
It is difficult for an organization to be losing 20% of the product that it provides. Think of yourself. If you run a bakery and the people around you thief 20%, you bake 100 bread every day, and people thief 20 of the breads every day. Think of how that affects you as a business.
No, it is not for 1 week.
Exactly. It's not in our interest to see electricity theft and walk past it. In other countries where people thief electricity, the governments get involved because they realize that there are two things. One is a crime. JPS is not a crime-fighting organization. That's one. Two, people thief maybe because they can't afford to pay electricity. And this is where the government is making a difference. The government has decided that it's a socio-economic issue, and they're stepping in. And I'm talking about governments on both. I mean, the opposition as well as the government in power. They have recognized that this is something that is way beyond the utility. And this is something that is done across the world where countries have been successful in addressing electricity theft. It's not about driving on the road and pulling down the throw-up lines. Yes, we do that. Every single day we do that. But we know that as soon as we take down the lines, the people them throw back the line, them go to the store and the hardware store and order the thieving line to thief the light and then go back up there and throw it out. So that is not a long-term solution. So yeah, you might see the teams drive and say and throw up their hands and say, boy, they can't stop them thieving people here. It happens. But the reality is that people don't steal because, in a lot of cases, people don't steal because they want thief. They steal because things are difficult and they're having challenges. And this is where we have our elected representatives stepping in and trying to help the people. So on the part of the government and the members of parliament, what they are doing is trying to facilitate house wiring so persons can get connected to the grid. Because some of the
you seem to have bought the government's line, You seem to have bought the government's line as to why people steal. You know that there's some very poor people, some pensioners who can't even buy bread and yet let's pay the light bill.
And I know that. Now, this is not the government's line. JPS has studied this thing for decades. We have benchmarked with other countries in India, in Brazil, in other countries, and we recognize that there are socioeconomic issues. No, we know that there are some people who steal just because they're thief. We know that. We've seen that. People who can afford it steal. But the reality is that there are some persons who are doing it because they can do better and they want the children to study, to go to school. So them take the light or they make somebody bridge the light for them so that the child can at least do them homework. So you have situations like that. And we are working with JSIF. We're working with other agencies. We're working with members of parliament. One success story that we're looking at now is in Riverton Meadows, where MP Anthony Hilton is working with the residents in that community to get them on the grid as legitimate users of electricity, then get them prepaid account and them very proud of themselves that them legitimate. We are looking to see more success stories like this across the board. But this is not a JPS alone issue. This is something that every single entity, everybody has responsibility for. We have to work with the law enforcement agencies. We have to work with elected representatives, and we have to work with responsible people like you who will help to spread the word to people to say there is a way. You don't have to thief. Yes, things might hard, but get the prepaid and pay as you go. If you can only afford $1,000, buy $1,000, top up like how you top up your phone, and you can use electricity. You manage it, live within your means. Make sure you save it for when the come home from school, them can do the homework, manage the thing with the prepaid. So those are the things that we are doing in partnership with others who can help us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director of Corporate Affairs, Communications,
and thank you
at JPS, Winsome Callum, who took us through what is involved in the restoration, what are the specifics of that rate, that increase that we heard about in December. And we talked quite a little bit about thieving electricity.
Thank you so very much. All the very best.
All right, so before we go to, Winnie's going to take us on a journey, on an AI journey. Winnie, do you accept that it's a social crime?
I don't even want to touch that, because that is why people are so comfortable stealing. I must share this. Bermuda has the highest electricity cost with an average of 0.4458 per kilowatt hour, and that is from Meta AI.
US
so
cents.
You can look it up.
US cents, 45 cents.
Yes, we're talking US. Jamaica is among the top 20. But not the highest.
Okay.
There are some issues, social issues as it relates to stealing electricity in Jamaica. Yes,
that's a whole program on that.
There are some people who are stealing because of economic reasons, but you have others who are stealing because they don't want to pay their bills. I am sure that listeners and viewers can recall in the past that some hotels were caught stealing houses in high-class residential areas operating swimming pools and all that were caught stealing. So
yes,
there are people who are stealing because they don't want to pay, but there are others who are having economic issues.
All right. Okay, Winnie, let's go to you now. We take Winnie is going to be one of the first people to take on AI in the early stages of it. Because Winnie on the ground, and here she's going to take us on a little AI journey today.
Okay. Well, this is a good segue into a matter that most people think that when we think Melissa, we think of that as the benchmark for the worst hurricane that is in recorded history. But thanks to AI, we can go way back to the 1780s. And AI bridges that gap for us to understand that there is a decade that's called the deadly 80s. The deadly decade, sorry. It's 1780, that hurricane that wiped out Savlamar, that caused a ship to be washed ashore onto George Street. So look, AI has helped us to reconstruct what happened then. Why is this important? It is important for us to be able to look back when we talk about Melissa being the worst. It could be worse because there was a hurricane, there was an earthquake rather, immediately after the hurricane. So that was far more devastating than Melissa. And that happened from 1780. So thanks to AI.
But Winnie.
Thanks to AI. May I finish the sentence, Desmond? Thanks to AI, we can go back there and reconstruct what happened to inform us as to where we can go from here. Yes, Desmond?
Well, yes, one thing with that AI discovered there, 1780, Westmoreland was not what Westmoreland is today.
No, it could not be. It could not be.
Westmoreland at that time was a slave colony with slave population and all that. So, in terms of what happened there last year, it was worst because you have to take into account the size of the population and the development. So that damage that was done in 1780 compared to what was done last year. No, last year was worse.
Details. You need the details in order to be able to accept or reject that. It is important to understand how this came about, what the historical information that is there, how that compares to what happened with Melissa. The town was rebuilt. And the most important reason it is important to go back there is to see what can happen again. It's a 20-foot surge that came in. 20. Just think of that.
So how did you use AI to get that information?
Okay, so I having learned about the deadly decade, I asked, it was Gemini who took me there. When you want to be sure, you cross-reference with artificial intelligence, you ask them where they get the information, and you can always cross-check. So it is important for us to understand that what happened in 1780, and notice it was October 3, so it is the month of October as well. And we have this maxim that we used to say, June too soon, July stand by, August, look out, you must. September, remember. October, all over. But history shows that October, it was not all over in 1780. So it is important. AI has helped us to go back then and to look forward. So it's important. We don't have the time to go through the details. What I want viewers to do is to go back. How many persons heard of that hurricane that devastated Savlamar, that swallowed the town, the 20-foot wave that came in and swallowed the town? How many of us heard about that? How many of us knew about that before? That's a question that I'm sure you all can answer. So AI is what helped me to go back there. And you can always ask, how did you come by all of this information? The ship records, the ships that came ashore, they were named. The ships that ended up in mango trees, the ships are named. The ship that sat in the street, that ship is named as well. So it is important to understand that AI can take us back. Although it is modern technology, it helps us to rebuild the past and see what our ancestors suffered. The Savlamar that we know now was not what it was then. It was rebuilt. And that's not the only hurricane of that period. So there are other hurricanes of that period. So it's important for us to use AI to help us to go back there and make sure that we understand enough of our past so that we can move on to the future and plan for better structures, better way to withstand the storms. How many of us knew of that hurricane? It is in the history books, but AI can bring it alive now and tell the story. So over to you, Joshua. Let's do something that right now with Franklin McKnight. Change his image.
All right. We only have a few minutes to go, but viewers, let us. Yes, we can. All right. Yes. So we were tasked with using some imagery, creating funny imageries of Franklin and what AI is doing now. Well, we know this. People are using it, putting it on social media. So here is his seed photograph. All right, this is a seed photograph that you will plug into the AI.
Okay. That's the end of today's show. I want to thank all my listeners and viewers. Thanks to my technical operator. And as usual, we are urging all users of the road to be careful. Let us reduce the fatalities on our roads. And remember, stay safe. The gunmen are still out there. So, take it easy. This is Rebel Radio, and I am Desmond Richards.
It's the Everybody Sale at New Budget Supplies. Do-it-yourself professionals and contractors. This is the sale for you. Lumber, steel, dress and form ply, water tanks, pumps, PVC pipes and fittings, toilets, bathtubs, vanities and basins, windows, paint, doors, floor and wall tiles, thin sets and grout. Up to 20% off selected items. 195 Hagleyburg Road. Telephone 923-4560. New Budget Supplies. Always the best prices.
Tools, hardware, and supplies is turning up the heat this summer with their super saving summer sale. Prices are slashed on everything you need to fix up your home. Beautiful tiles, sleek doors, top quality windows, modern sanitary ware, exclusive flooring, and more. At Tools, hardware, and supplies, we have you covered for the summer.
So come visit us at 279 Spanish Town Road, 4 South Camp Road, 8 Red Hills Road,
or online at toolsja.com.
Tools!
The Lion King of Hardware.